you.
WXON Detroit.
Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Round 1. Tonight, the Detroit Red Wings meet the Chicago Blackhawks.
Last night in the opening game of the playoff series between Detroit and Chicago, the solid goaltending that got the Red Wings into postseason competition and many nights carried the team suffered a rather untimely lapse. The Blackhawks were very concerned about Detroit's hot goalkeeping, but they got right to Greg Stephan early in the first period for 4 goals. Bob Mano scored late in the period to reduce the lead to 3. The second period, a repeat of the first, with O'Callaghan and then Ben Wilson getting early tallies. With the score 6-2, Coach Nick Polano decided to bench Stephan in favor of Corrado Mikkola. But it was Ed Olczyk and Steve Larmer who quickly took advantage of Mikkola. Larson closed the gap by 1, and then John Ogrodnik got to Bannerman. In the third period, Bannerman aggravated strained stomach muscles, had to be replaced by Warren Skorondinsky. Randy Lattiser and then Steve Eisenman put the puck past him, but too little, too late. The final score was 9-5 Chicago, but the question now, who's going to be in goal tonight for Game 2, Corrado Mikkola or Greg Stephan?
Hockey. Tonight's game is brought to you by Renault, European technology and design that's affordable. Renault, the one to watch. And by Michigan National Banks, where you get more for your money. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Reach for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Little Caesars, with over 150 locations in the Detroit metro area to serve you. And by your 48 greater Detroit area Midas shops. Trust the Midas touch. And by Thornapple Valley's great tasting hot dogs, hams, bacon, and sausage. And by J.C. Penney, your headquarters for Levi corduroy jeans. Now from Rinkside, here's Bruce Martin and Sid Abel.
Well, it has to be one of the noisiest crowds in the National Hockey League here in Chicago. And they're welcoming their Chicago Blackhawks out onto the ice, but instead the referee, Andy Van Helleman, let his 2 linesmen out. Here, though, comes Murray Bannerman, Sid, which would indicate that indeed the Chicago goaltender is ready to go.
Well, there's no doubt. He was injured a little bit last night, but he is their #1 goaltender, and they're going to go with him. He had a fine game, too, last night. Played very well.
Well, the Red Wings, of course, will welcome back a young man named Danny Gare. Danny was suspended and had to sit out those 3 games, missed the game last night, and I'll tell you, the Red Wings missed him.
Well, one thing about Danny Gare, he's had a fine year scoring goals, and he is a leader, and the Red Wings, particularly tonight, need a leader on the ice.
A little while ago we asked who will be playing goal for the Red Wings tonight. Well, it'll be right back, and I'm not too surprised, Greg Stephan.
Well, I'm glad they come back with Greg. He had a bad night last night, and players have those things, so they just have to forget this is a new day, a new game, and go at it tonight.
Red Wings are down 1-0 in this best-of-5 game series. We'll be back for the opening face-off at game number 2 in just a moment.
You want to win, you got to practice stopping Sarinsky. Murphy, you're Sarinsky. You dog me, Sarinsky.
is what they say. This really encourages the Chicago Blackhawk team. They start yelling about halfway through the anthem, and the crescendo just builds and builds. And it gives their home club quite a feeling. We mentioned Greg Stephan will be in goal for the Detroit Red Wings tonight. He was the loser of last night's game. Overall, 21-19-3. And Murray Bannerman, who played a spectacular hockey game last night for Chicago. Red Wings outshot the Hawks 51-30. The referee is Andy Van Helleman. He's having quite a conversation with the two team captains. Sutter of Chicago, Danny Gare of Detroit.
Well, there's no doubt they're just going over things that do happen in a hockey game and probably giving them both a warning to their club as to play hockey and not do things foolishly out there. As far as the Red Wings are concerned, they were beaten last night and beaten quite handily. They've just got to forget that yesterday existed and come out as though this was the opening game. They come over here hoping to win one game, so they still have that possibility. And if they were to win tonight, I would think the odds would favor them going home.
Steve Yzerman is centering Ron Duguay and Gerard Gallant as the hockey game is underway. Ed Olczyk is out with Troy Murray and Fraser. Now the puck comes back to the Detroit blue line, and Ladisser feeds it right back into the Chicago zone. Doug Wilson sends it ahead to Kurt Fraser, knocked away by Larson. Puck still bouncing along at the Detroit blue line, and the Hawks will push it in offside. Well, the one thing the Red Wings have to do, and it's hurt them all season long, is cut down that goals against.
Yes, you can't have a team score 9 goals on you and expect to win, and especially on the road, the Wings have had problems. Too many goals, making mistakes in their own zone, giving the puck up.
Puck bounces back out center ice. Doug Wilson back at his own blue line, gives it there to Jack O'Callahan, and now Wilson again. He was tied up by Duguay. Puck taken center ice by Reed Larson. Larson slapped it back in, but it's knocked right back out, and here's Fraser. Checked center ice by Duguay, then shot it into the Detroit end, and again, the play goes in offside.
Neither team, we got a little thing started out here already.
Didn't take too long.
Gallant. Oh, and then that's what starts it when they come running in from out.
Gerard Gallant trying to get it O'Callahan, who made the move in. Well, we're 40 seconds into the first period, and it didn't take long.
And most of these affairs start so innocently. Just two players coming together, and first thing you know, they all want to get in and do a little grabbing.
Troy Murray and Steve Yzerman have a headlock, or Murray actually has on Yzerman, and the linesman trying to separate them. Into the penalty box, O'Callahan. Gallant hasn't moved in yet. Referee Van Helleman will dish out the penalties, and it didn't take us long. I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, it's not good starting a hockey game this way, and especially after the referee just talked to the two captains, no doubt going over the rules. Duguay goes in for Detroit.
Well, I'm sure Gallant will go in. At least I think he will. All of this coming at 40 seconds. Gerard Gallant took a stick up high, came back. He and Troy Murray, and then Yzerman moved in to hold off Murray. Gallant has not come to the penalty box.
He's not going in.
Well, we'll be back to sort out the penalties. Let's pause first for this message.
This Bud's for everyone who keeps things rolling on the mighty Mississippi.
Breakaway barge, please respond.
Let's get him.
This is the Navy building. We're right below here as we on our way out.
I'll come around on the port side and bumper there. Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do, this Bud's for you.
Well, it would look as if we're going to have a 5-minute major to O'Callahan and Duguay, and Troy Murray has picked up an additional 2 minutes. Here they are.
2 minutes for roughing. Blackhawk penalties. Number 19, Troy Murray, 2 minutes for roughing. Blackhawk penalty number 5, Jack O'Callahan, 2 minutes for charging at 40 seconds. Detroit penalty, Duguay, 2 minutes for roughing. Blackhawk penalties, Troy Murray, 2 minutes roughing. O'Callahan, 2 minutes for charging at 40 seconds.
Charging call to O'Callahan when he just made the run in, and you mentioned it, Sid, and that really gets things going. He came from left field, charged into the melee with Duguay and Troy Murray doing some shoving. So he gets a charging call. Duguay and Murray, 2 minutes apiece for roughing, all at 40 seconds. Red Wings have the extra man. Puck is driven the length of the ice. Detroit's power play has Kissio up front with Ladouceur back along the point, Reed Larson, and on the wings, Danny Gare and John Ogrodnik. Here's Ogrodnik carrying over the line. He chases it in toward the corner, dumped it into the opposite side. Randy Ladouceur goes in deep, but Gardner knocked it away from him. Danny Gare made the check, held it in at the blue line. No, he didn't. It was offside. So the play comes out just over the Chicago blue line, and we've got another conversation going on at center ice between Ladouceur and Patterson. This is going to be one of those nights. I just have the feeling.
Yes, it looks like it. In the meantime, Gare was having a little duel over along the boards. The sticks have come up high, and here we've only played a minute and 13 seconds.
Red Wings got hurt with a power play. They didn't score with all of their opportunities last night, and the Hawks scored their first 2 chances. Jumped into a 4-0 lead, and the Red Wings just never recovered. Now the play back in the Chicago end, but Doug Wilson has it there, and Wilson drives it back into the Detroit zone. Steppen stops it in behind his own goal, and Ladouceur is after it. Ladouceur left it right there, and so Kelly Kissio picks it up still deep in his own end. Here's Kissio heading out. Kelly Kissio coming out center ice. Kissio on the move over the line into the Chicago zone. Drops it off for Larson. Reed Larson tried to set up Ogrodnik. Ogrodnik dug it off the side. Kelly Kissio into the corner. Back on the line to Randy Ladouceur. Ladouceur didn't take the shot. Just made it over along the boards. Ogrodnik held it in with Larson's help. Kissio really belted to the ice by Doug Wilson. And the puck fired back into the Detroit zone. 40 seconds remaining in the penalty now as the Red Wings Ladouceur starts out. Center ice pass to Sittler. Darryl Sittler up the right side to Steve Yzerman. Yzerman back into the Chicago zone. It slid right to the Hawks goal. Played in behind his own net by Bannerman, and the Hawks will bring it out. Steve Ludzik. Ludzik over the line. He's got Olczyk with him. Goes in, fired a shot wide of the Detroit net. He was dumped by Larson. Here now Gerard Gallant over the line with Sittler. Gallant tried to work out in front. He did. Took the shot. A backhander knocked away by Bannerman. Now the play still in the Chicago zone. It came back to Larson with a drive. Bannerman the save, and Gallant's shot is blocked. Great save by Bannerman. And a great effort by the Red Wings, most particularly Gerard Gallant.
Well, you know, Bannerman is slow getting up again. That shot of Larson's, and Reed got all the wood on it. He made a big save on the shot, and then a bigger save on the rebound that comes straight back out to Gallant. Gallant was in close, couldn't get it up high enough.
Ben Wilson was really manhandling Gallant. That's what started a little fracas down along behind the Chicago goal. Nothing more comes of it. They're still having words out there. Larson gets into it, gives a little shove to the Chicago player, Ludzik.
One thing Detroit have to make up their mind that they're not going to be pushed out or chased out of this building early in the game. They've got to hold their ground tonight, because Chicago last night, after they got ahead, they put on just a little bit of a show for this big crowd over here.
4 seconds remaining in the Detroit power play opportunity. We have played just 2 minutes and 36 seconds of this first period. Darryl Sittler, Gallant, and Yzerman up front for the Wings. Brad Park and John Barrett now back at the points. Face-off, if it ever takes place, will be to the left side of the Chicago goal. Gardner in against Sittler. No score, early moments of the first period. The Hawks won the draw. Keith Brown drives it back toward the line. Barrett couldn't hold it in. Penalty is over. Troy Murray back on, and the team's both at full strength. Here now at his own blue line is Brad Park. Park skates his way to the Chicago line. Drove a long shot. Bannerman blocks that. Ben Wilson takes it in behind his own goal. Now Wilson's pass knocked down by Gallant. It's dribbled right to the goal mouth, and Bannerman clears it back to the side. It bounced away from Savard. Yzerman held it in. Here's Gallant chasing it into the corner. Stepped into the opposite corner now, and Ben Wilson feeds it ahead to Savard. Here is Savard pulling away from one check over the line into the Detroit zone. Savard trying to go around Smith. And he dropped it right back onto the stick of Brad Smith. Brad Smith of the wings shoots it to the Chicago blue line, and Bob Murray turns it back to Steve Larmer. Back into the Detroit end. It's shoved away by Greg Steffen in the Detroit goal. Secord bumped heavily into the Detroit player over along the boards. Barrett. Play goes in behind the Detroit goal. Savard has a stick on it there. Takes it into the corner. And Larmer fired it wide. Bob Mano sends it up the right side. Brad Smith trying to pull away from Savard. It ended up in the corner of the Hawks Secord. Flipped it out center ice, and Greg Smith will take it there. Bob Mano couldn't hold it. Now here's Larmer going back into the Detroit zone, and Brad Smith pins him in along the boards. Mano dumped it into the corner, deep in his own zone. Smith hands it back to Barrett. Secord took a run at Greg Smith. Here now is Mano back down the ice, over the line with a drive, and Bannerman stopped that. It's loose out in front and then sent to the corner by Ben Wilson. Wilson checked there by Dwight Foster. They hit the referee with it. Foster trying to pull away from Ben Wilson. It looks like he's going to have a rough night. Puck slides back off to the side of the Detroit goal. Greg Smith took a swing at it. In behind his own net is Ladouceur, up the left side to Mano. Now Bob Mano sends it center ice to Brad Smith. The wings will change on the move as Wilson heads back into the Detroit zone. Wilson took the shot, knocked away on the side by a Detroit goaltender Steffen. Here though a center pass by Sutter, broken off, and O'Grodny kicks it down the ice. Brown and O'Grodny can race after it. O'Grodny took him into the corner. Puck came back to the line. Randy Ladouceur with a drive. A save made. Danny Gare had an empty net. Right back down the ice. The Hawks and Greg Steffen gets out in front of Yaremchuk's shot. Boy, Bannerman is playing some kind of hockey. We'll be back. There's still no score. Let's pause for this.
So, I owe you for 2 pizzas.
No, Mr. Carlin. At Little Caesars, when you pay for 1 pizza, you get another one free.
Well, that's very honorable, but if we get 2, we should pay for 2.
But if you pay for 2, you'll get 4.
Then we'll pay for 4.
Then you'll get 8.
Well, then I'll pay.
Little Caesars. When you make a pizza this good, 1 just isn't enough.
Then we'll pay for 512.
Then you'll get 1,024.
Then we'll pay.
Well, there's no doubt Bannerman is here to play, and he was shot by Ladouceur that went across, went through, and the rebound come right out to Danny Gare, and he tried to go upstairs with it, and Bannerman just did the splits with his legs and made a pad save up going into the empty part of the net.
They're having a discussion here. What happened is that the Chicago bench, after Gare came so close to scoring, the Chicago goal, rather, was lifted off that magnet. The referee and the linesman didn't notice it. They stopped the play after Greg Steffen had made a save back in the Detroit end. It should have been stopped prior to that, so they're bringing the face-off out to center ice.
The linesman Hodge did see it, and he didn't really know if he should blow the whistle or not. He let the play go, and there was a shot on the Detroit net, but Kelly Kissio come out and argued, and they moved the face-off out to center ice.
We've played 5 minutes, 5 seconds of the first period. No score. O'Callahan of Chicago clears it back into the Detroit zone. Larson goes in behind his own goal after it, pulled away from Savard. O'Grodny's pass broken up now, and here's Secord dropping it back on his own blue line for Doug Wilson. Wilson clears it ahead. Larmer off the left side. Here's Savard trying to move out in front. And Ladouceur got a stick on that loose puck, deflected it away. It's still deep in the Detroit zone. A centering pass, and a great save by Steffen. He robbed Larmer. Woo! And the Wings tip it back into the Chicago zone. They race in after it. It goes into the corner. An icing call against the Red Wings. But what a save Greg Steffen just made.
Terrific. That's going to give Greg Steffen a lot of confidence coming up with a big save like that to keep this score tied. This time last night, Chicago had already scored a couple goals. An unbelievable play right from in close.
Steve Larmer, he's a sharpshooter.
He got rid of it the moment it come out through the Detroit player and right on Larmer's stick, and he slapped it right back, and Steffen come up with a big save.
Well, the Red Wings return to Detroit for games Saturday and Sunday nights. Both of them will start at 8 o'clock. And tickets are on sale now at the Joe Louis Arena box office. Or you can order by phone at 567-9800 for either of the 2 games. We hope a 4th game will be played. The third on Saturday and the fourth, if necessary, Sunday. Dwight Foster, Brad Smith, Bob Mano, the forward line of the Wings, Lysiak, Yaremchuk, and Sutter now. For Chicago, right from the face-off, Sutter drove a shot over the top of the net. Murray from the blue line.
Arrow Sutter. Well, it's so important. Face-off, and Sutter took the shot. Puck went out to the corner, and then Murray shot, and Sutter was standing there all by himself. Murray's shot was not on the net, but it was right to where Sutter was, and Sutter had no problem putting it in. So Chicago have opened up a one-goal lead.
5 minutes, 49 seconds of this first period, and Greg Steffen didn't have a whisper on that one. No chance at all. Here now is Randy Ladouceur dumping it out center ice to Foster. Dropped it off from Mano. Back to Foster over the line. Brad Smith cutting in on the net. Smith goes into the corner with Ben Wilson. Pulled the puck loose. Here's Smith trying to work it in behind the goal. Foster goes in after it. They jam in along the boards. And still no whistle. The referee letting them work it out, and Chicago's going to come out with it. Yaremchuk brings it down the right side into the Detroit zone. Ladouceur knocked it away from him. The Wings swing it back to center ice. Now Reed Larson will take it. Back over the line. Larson with a quick shot. Didn't get a whole lot on it. And Bannerman grabs onto that. And Brad Smith and the Chicago player Brown are nose to nose.
This crowd is just going wild here in this building. Chicago getting on the board first tonight. Sutter scoring his second goal of the playoff series.
Murray and Lysiak draw the assist. Lysiak played it back to the blue line. Murray fired the shot, and Sutter deflected it by a 1-0 lead for Chicago at 5 minutes and 49 seconds.
Shows how important it is to shoot the puck from the point and not give the other team a time to get organized around their net. Murray just got rid of it the moment it came out to the blue line. His shot was not on net. It wasn't a pass by any means to Sutter. It was just a wild shot on net that was off target by 6 feet, but Sutter was there to put it in.
Ron Duguay, Gallant, and Yzerman now for Detroit. Puck came back to Brad Park with a shot. Bannerman kicks that away. Wings are getting a lot of shots on goal, but they've been from pretty well out, with the exception of a couple, most particularly Danny Gare's great opportunity. Now Duguay knocked it down at center ice. It slides back into the Detroit zone. The Wings fail to work it out. Here's Olchuk. Put it right on the goal. And Fraser was there, failed to deflect it. And the play stays still in the Detroit zone. Olchuk in behind the net, being bothered there by John Barrett. Brad Park couldn't dig it out. Kurt Fraser trying to center it. He's tied up by Park. Going in after it is Yzerman. Yzerman is grabbed from behind. He can't pull away. And referee Van Helleman letting them do a little grabbing and holding both ways. Now Troy Murray back on his own blue line. Hands it off to Ben Wilson. Wilson clears it ahead. John Barrett will take it at the Detroit line. Barrett dumps it up the left side to Gallant. Duguay cutting right in. And a bouncing puck, and Duguay couldn't control it. Now here's Steve Yzerman with it. Back to Duguay with a drive. Final right there was Gallant trying to tip it by, but it was too swift and ends up all the way back into the Detroit zone. Brad Park dumps it center ice. It bounced away from Kissio. Doug Wilson covers up for Chicago, ahead to Secord. Now Danny Gare knocked that away at center ice. Brad Park scoops it back out. O'Callahan of Chicago put it right on the stick of John O'Grodny. Back it comes to Park, still deep in the Detroit zone. Now Ladouceur misfired on it. O'Grodny moves in to cover up. Here's Gare back over the Chicago line with a quick shot. Knocked away by Bannerman. Steve Larmer being chased by Kissio. Played it still deep in his own zone, up the left side to Secord, and Secord dumps it out center ice. At his own line now is Ladouceur. Ladouceur will be called for icing as he drives it the length of the ice. Chicago touches it. We've played 8.5 minutes of the first period. 1-0 Chicago. We'll be back in a moment.
My daughter calls it the Blue Bomber. My wife thinks I ought to get rid of it. And when it needed a new muffler, well, I was afraid she might be right.
Listen, I don't want to spend too much on this car.
Midas had a muffler that was perfect for my budget. Now the old Blue Bomber sounds almost as good as new. And heck, she doesn't look that bad.
Just a Midas touch.
See your Greater Detroit Midas dealer for exhaust, brake, and suspension service you know you can trust.
Bruce Martin along with Sid Abel, our producer-director Toby Cunningham here at Chicago Stadium. Nearing the midpoint of the first period, Blackhawks 1, Detroit nothing. Here's Reed Larson coming out for Detroit. Drove a long shot wide of the Chicago goal. Tom Lysiak takes it into the corner, pulls away from one check, clears it ahead to Sutter. Darryl Sutter's pass knocked down right at the Detroit line by Larson. Reed Larson dumps it back into the Chicago zone. Covering up there is Bob Murray. Murray played it along the boards. Mano held it in for Detroit, then it's knocked away from him. The Hawks start back. Remchuk was called down and actually just got up and looked at the referee, stared at him with nothing called. Reed Larson played it over the line. The play is offside. Now Remchuk is really giving it to Van Helleman, and he stops right in his tracks. Gave a warning to Remchuk.
Of all the players in the Red Wing club, I believe Randy Lattiser is showing more nervousness about a Stanley Cup game. He seems to be fighting the puck in his own zone and being very hesitant about making passes.
Well, he's in a tough hockey game right now, Sid. Still a very young man. He's going to be valuable.
Oh, he's had a great season, and is picking up his points.
Now the puck bouncing around at the Detroit blue line. Lattiser covers up on Remchuk. Remchuk, a world of speed, played it up the right side. Brad Smith given a bump there by DuPont. Meanwhile, Lattiser chases it back into the Chicago zone. He lost a glove, tries to get it loose for Foster. Foster is belted by DuPont. Oh, they're really swinging away at one another, and the two players down on top of the puck.
See, that's where I think penalties should be called.
He's letting him go like both ways. So again, with a pause in the action, 1-0 for Chicago. Will be back right after this.
Bronco 2 never made it. S10 Blazer never made it. Only Jeep Cherokee is the triple award-winning 4x4.
Experience it for yourself. Get in. Only Cherokee gives you a choice of 2 or 4 doors. Only Cherokee has room for 5 and more cargo space than Bronco or Blazer. And our new 2-wheel drive Cherokee starts at $91.95.
Now you can have all this.
Only in a Jeep.
Lattiser controlling the play along the boards, and then finally when it's frozen, he gets a little help from Dwight Foster and Mano, but as Foster comes in, he is really hit from behind as he was trying to dig the puck out.
And that had to be a charging
Yes,
ball.
that's how players get hurt, and when referees miss charging like that, that's what hurts hockey, really.
Face off to the left now, the Chicago goal. Duguay won the draw. Here's Brad Park, put it out in front. Eisenman drove one just wide. That was in if it was on the net. Set up by Brad Park. Puck went high in the air right into the Detroit bench. Let's take 5 seconds right now that our stations may identify themselves. 5 seconds for station identification.
TV 20, WXON, Detroit.
Steve Eisenman, had that puck been on the net, had this game tied.
Terrific setup, and he got rid of it. He knew what he wanted to do, but he just had the aim off a little wide.
We'll bring you up to date on the out-of-town scores. No score in New York and Philadelphia again. The Flyers won last night. Washington is a 1-0 lead over the New York Islanders. Game being played in Washington. Washington won in overtime last night. Now here's Chicago coming out of their own zone. Olczyk's pass knocked down by Olczyk himself and went into the Detroit zone offside. Buffalo and Quebec are playing a 1-1 tie in a game at Quebec. That Olczyk is quite a story. Here in Chicago, a boy right out of the area, and he was the #1 draft choice of the Hawks, and has played well and got 2 goals in the game last night.
His first 2-goal game of the season.
Boston and Montreal are all tied at 1-1. Boston defeated the Canadiens last night. The Rangers and the Flyers, we said, are 0-0. Here at the Chicago Stadium, the Hawks have a 1-0 lead over Detroit. St. Louis has jumped in front of Minnesota 1-0 in the game being played at St. Louis. Here's Eisenman back into the Chicago zone, hands it off to Gallant. Gallant goes to the corner with it, plays it to the opposite corner. Eisenman pulled away from Brown's check. Here's Eisman, and his pass knocked down and skips out center ice. Duguay comes back after it. Ron Duguay back at his own blue line. Hands it back now to Steve Yzerman, and Yzerman moves again. Drives it off the side of the Chicago goal. Olczyk tied up his man. That was Gallant. And Fraser heads back now for Chicago. Kurt Fraser cleared it back into the Detroit zone. Brad Park will go back after it. Park just played it into the corner. Troy Murray and Yzerman go in. Murray gave Yzerman a bump along the boards, and the Hawks gain control. But Yzerman moves back, intercepts as Ogrodnik on the move. The pass just too far out in front of him. Murray Vanderman plays it out in front of his own goal, drives it into the corner, and the Hawks start back. Troy Murray checked by Kissio. Danny Gare picks it up. As Ogrodnik over the line, the pass over the top of Ogrodnik's stick. Now the Hawks will dig it back in their own zone, send it out to Kurt Fraser. Fraser back into the Detroit zone with Murray. He was checked by Lattiser. Murray picks it up. Larson blocked his shot. Murray has it again. Murray puts it right out in front. Fired wide by Steve Larmer. Great opportunity for Larmer, but this time he shot it wide. Now Savard's pass deflected away, and Danny Gare has Ogrodnik up the left side. Ogrodnik trying to move in, took a shot that went over the top of the Chicago goal, off the glass and up into the crowd.
And that's where John Ogrodnik likes to shoot from. He got it just a little too high. He was being bothered as he went to get the shot away.
Well, Sid, we were remiss last night. I was struggling with voice problems all night long, and the Red Wings were struggling out on the ice. And we didn't offer the congratulations that indeed we meant to the Detroit Red Wing publicist, Bill Jamieson, and his wife Rose on the birth of their little daughter.
Yes, it's Bill didn't come to Chicago, waiting for the birth of his daughter, and congratulations, Bill and Rose.
He ties a club record for the Red Wings now, 6 daughters, record previously held by Bud Lynch.
Right. But Bill and Rose are still a young couple. Oh, yeah. Their odds of breaking it.
Now the play goes back into the Chicago zone, in behind his own goal. O'Callahan checked back of the net, but Doug Wilson covers up in the corner. Sends it out, and it bounces center ice for Randy Lattiser, turning at his own blue line. Lattiser's pass knocked away. The Hawks will take it over 2 lines offside. Day comes back out over to the center ice area, and we'll be back. 1-0 Chicago leads it. Let's pause for this.
You're about to discover you have a weakness for sausage. Old-fashioned Polish sausage from Thornapple Valley. You can't resist how it looks as it begins to grill.
Look at that.
You inhale the hickory-smoked aroma, and you relish the way Thornapple Valley combines select cuts and old-world seasonings to create the most irresistible sausage ever.
Taste it.
Hearty Polish sausage from Thornapple Valley. Even before you taste it, you know how good it's going to be.
Comes back to the Detroit blue line. Reed Larson dumps it out center ice. It'll slide back into the Chicago zone, and Doug Wilson is back after it. Here's O'Callahan. Jack O'Callahan just cleared it to the Detroit line. Lattiser knocked it away, but Yaremchuk brings it right back in. Then Yaremchuk goes to the corner. Lattiser has him pretty well covered. They go in behind the goal. Lysiak trying to dig it away. It's dug out though by Sutter. Here's O'Callahan with a drive over the top of the Detroit goal. Big opportunity by Chicago. The Red Wings come back. Duguay over the line. A little drop pass for Yzerman. Yzerman's return pass didn't get through. Duguay took it in the corner. Pulled away from one check. He and O'Callahan battling along the boards. They'll hold it for a face-off to the right side of the Chicago goal.
In the second period, there could have been a penalty on the play when Yzerman was dumped. He trying to move into the zone. The puck got in his feet, though, and he tried to kick it out, and he was more or less pulled down from behind.
J.P. McCarthy puts your mornings together, 6:15 till 10 on Radio 76 WJR. That's your power station for sports and everything else that is Detroit. Off in the circle to the right side of the Chicago goal. Dwight Foster, Brad Smith, and Bob Mano up front now for the Wings. They're the checking unit. On against Secord, Savard, and Larmer. Last time the goal was scored by Chicago, and the Lysiak line was out on the ice, and this line was out there checking them. Face off to the right again of the Chicago net. Dwight Foster in against Savard. Buck slid along the boards. John Barrett tried to hold it in. Bob Murray took a swat at it. It goes over the glass, ends up in the crowd. So we'll go through still another face-off.
That's a set play by Detroit. When no one moves up on the far side of the circle along the boards, the center iceman tries to just move the puck off to the board area and let the defenseman move in. John Barrett, in that case, with 6 goals and 20 assists this season. A real good season for a body-checking defenseman. He is not the dipsy-doer.
Defensive.
Right. But, you know, late in the season, he carried that mail for the Wings so well. And, in fact, we nicknamed him the Rocket a few times, the way he was going.
When he gets up ahead of steam, I don't want to get in front of him.
No, just a clear shot to the net because he could really go.
Now the Hawks in behind their own goal. Bob Murray heads out to center ice. Wings change on the move as Murray drives a long shot wide of the Detroit net. Kissio sends it up the right wing to Brad Smith. Here's Smith over the line. Smith fires the shot. Vanderman left it right out in front. Kelly Kissio will take it into the corner. Banged it along the boards by Ludzig. And coming up with the puck, the Hawks out at center ice, Gardner. Gardner cleared it over the line. A return pass knocked down by Barrett. Gloved ahead by Greg Smith. It's cleared into the Chicago end. Ben Wilson hands it there to Brown. Greg Smith without a stick, and there a pass covering 2 lines by Chicago is offside. And so still it is 1-0. Chicago leading. Over along the Detroit bench, we have some pushing and shoving going on between Ben Wilson and John Barrett. 2 linesmen get over there in a hurry. So a pause in the action. 1-0 Chicago. Will be back in a moment.
You could win $1,000 a week for life playing the new instant lottery game, Lifetime Deal.
Deposit, please.
Name?
Spangler.
Spangler?
Spangler.
$1,000 week after week.
Your usual deposit, Mr. Spangler?
Year after year.
Cigar, Mr. Spangler?
Morning, Ted. Morning, Ed.
Mr. Spangler.
Imagine how that could add up.
Bye, boss. Home, Stanley.
Which one, sir?
In our first intermission on television, so it'll be talking to Ned Olczyk of the Chicago Blackhawks. Nick Polano having quite a little argument with the referee Van Hellemond. He wanted to send on a different line. Van Hellemond wouldn't let him. So now we have the Grodny-Gare and Kissio combination in against Savard, Secord, Larmer.
In all probability, there'll be a quick line change here.
Well, I don't know. This line played right with them.
Yes, I know they did.
Face off right at the Chicago blue line. Linesman positioning players. Willard, or rather Bob Hodges.
Danny Gare will take a back step to Secord, regardless how big he is.
Now the puck came back out center ice for Greg Smith, who clears it right back in. It bounces in behind the Chicago net, and the Wings do make the player change. Secord drives it over to the 2 lines again offside. The Hawks have a man just roaming around that center ice trying to break loose, and that time it was Savard, but the pass covered the 2 lines.
They try to get a player in behind the Detroit defense. When Detroit move up, they're a little careless at times, getting their defensemen in too deep. They're trying to drift the center iceman back out behind them and take long passes.
Bobby Pulford makes the change now from the Chicago bench, and Yaremchuk comes back out with Lysiak and Sutter. This is the line where the only goal of the hockey game scored by Sutter, Lysiak and Bob Murray assisting. Now Ben Wilson hands it off to his defenseman Keith Brown. Brown sends it out center ice, and John Barrett knocked it back in, and the Wings were trapped offside.
A lot of whistles here in this first period. Both teams trying to play as cautious or defensive as they can, but at the same time trying to get the long passes working.
And another player change now by both of the teams. The Wings come out with Ogrodnik and Kissio and Danny Gare again. Murray Bannerman, who played so well in goal for Chicago in the game last night, was removed the latter half of the 3rd period. Skorodensky came on, and the Wings scored twice on him.
He has won all 4 games that he's played against the Wings here in this building.
Now the Hawks have the puck back in the Detroit zone. Ogrodnik make the check. He's knocked flat by Secord. But John Barrett carries back over the line, fired the shot. Bannerman juggles it and falls on it. And John Barrett made the rush that time, and he and Doug Wilson do a little shoving, and O'Callahan gets into this one.
Murray Bannerman appears to be a very, very nonchalant goaltender. John just cut up through the middle, went over the blue line, let the shot go. It was a fairly easy shot for Bannerman to handle up in the chest area, but John just snapped it after he got about 10, 15 feet over the blue line.
Face-off stays in the circle off to the right side of the Chicago goal. Here's Ogrodnik, laid it back to Greg Smith with a drive. Knocked down out in front, and Kissio's rebound went just wide. Danny Gare fights to hold it in. Doug Wilson played it in behind his own net, and O'Callahan has it. Ogrodnik knocked his pass down. It got tangled up in skates, though, and Chicago tips it out center ice. Steve Larmer with it. Here's Larmer back into the Detroit zone with a shot knocked down by Barrett. Greg Smith plays it too far out in front of Danny Gare. The Hawks have it at center ice. Doug Wilson had to wait for Secord to come back on side. Now Larmer carries in, took the shot. Stefan knocks that away. Gare off to the side of his goal, clears it to Kissio, and Ogrodnik coming up the left wing. Kissio over the line. Kissio flipped it into the corner. Duguay just came on with chasing after it, but Savard knocked it down. The Hawks start back. Puck deflected back into the Detroit zone. In after it, Greg Smith. Smith played it up the right side, too far for Duguay. That's going to roll far enough for an icing call. And the face-off will come right back into the Detroit end. Little more than 5 minutes to play here in the first period as the Hawks lead it 1-0.
Greg Stefan, even though he's down by the 1 goal, he had no chance on the goal that was scored on him. He started 20 of the last 24 games that the Red Wings have played. Come into this playoff with really a hot hand, but then didn't carry it through in the first game, but has made 2 or 3 big saves here in the first period. He hasn't been called on for that much work, but he has come up when he had to.
The Wings now have Duguay, Yzerman, and Gallant. Larson and Ladouceur. Duguay played it in behind his own goal. Randy Ladouceur took a bump from Fraser. The puck was held in. Duguay took it away. Now Gallant comes out center ice. Gallant lifts it back into the Chicago zone. DuPont goes chasing in after it. Lost to Duguay, then hauled down by DuPont. The Hawks have it. Gallant fired his man. That was Murray in along the boards. Reed Larson tries to hold it in. Can't do it. Comes out center ice, and Ladouceur has it at his own blue line. Randy Ladouceur played it ahead. Gallant tipped it off to the side of the Chicago goal. The Hawks played in behind their own net. Steve Yzerman. Yzerman couldn't get loose. It's loose in behind the net. Duguay swept it right through the goal. And the Hawks will bring it right back down the ice. Ron Duguay with a good chance, and the opportunity made possible by Gallant. Swept it right through the crease, but here's Olczyk back in the corner of the Detroit zone. Larson has him tied up. Now Ladouceur. The Wings fired back out center ice, and the Hawks will go after it there and shoot it right back in. Fraser cleared it in behind the Detroit net. Stefan plays it up the right side for Larson and Duguay. Well, Duguay returned it to Larson. Larson couldn't reach it, but coming back after it, Ladouceur. Yzerman up the left side to Gallant, and the Wings bang it back to the Chicago line. Ben Wilson has it there. Now Ben Wilson drops it back for Brown, and Wilson again. At center ice, Fraser drives it back in, but that pass again covered 2 lines. Chicago's been doing a lot of that.
Well, it's a much closer and tighter hockey game than last night that got into a shooting contest with the Hawks opening up a 4-goal lead. Here they are, 3 minutes and 43 seconds to go. Chicago have the 1 goal and a little bit of luck in their 1 goal. A shot from the blue line by Murray that was off net right to Sutter, who was standing off the side of the net. He had half the goal to put it in.
Face off just inside the Chicago blue line. The Hawks will gain possession. O'Callahan handed it to Yaremchuk. Yaremchuk circling in his own zone. Drops it back for Jack O'Callahan, and now Doug Wilson. Wilson played it to the Detroit line. Mark lost it, and here's Yaremchuk. 2-0 Chicago. The Wings handed it away. And Yaremchuk with a lot of speed moved right in on Greg Stefan.
Well, you've got to give Yaremchuk a lot of credit. He never stopped on the play. Grant Park had it, but lost it. Yaremchuk just followed up. Went in and put it up high in the net. This kid is turning out to be a pretty good-looking hockey player. A lot like Savard. He's got real good moves. He skates well. Kind of a choppy stride, but he really moves.
Well, Yaremchuk, boy, he's got speed to burn. Makes makes it 2-0. I would think an unassisted goal. 2-0 Chicago now as we have 3:20 to play here in the first period. Brad Park back in his own zone. A rink-wide pass to Barrett. Barrett sends it out center ice. You got to believe this. They gave 2 assists on it to Wilson and O'Callaghan. Play back in the Chicago zone. The Hawks will bring it out. Out at center ice now. Larmer feeds it ahead for Savard. Back into the Detroit zone. In behind the Detroit goal. It's centering. But great speed shown by first Yaremchuk and then Savard. Now the play comes up to Kelly Kisiop over the line, back into the Chicago zone. The pass too far out in front of Ogrodny, comes back out center ice, and the Wings take it in offside.
Wilson, number 5, Jack O'Callaghan at 16:33. Assisted by Doug Wilson and O'Callaghan at 16:33.
So 2 goals coming 33 seconds apart. At a 3-0 lead now for Chicago.
Blackhawk goal scored by Secord, assisted by Savard at 17:06.
Savard drew the only assist on Secord's goal. He made the play all the way on that one.
Well, here the Wings were battling a 1-0 hockey game, and then a mistake right at the blue line where Brad Park lost possession of the puck, and Yaremchuk, not stopping, went in and scored, and then they're right back in 33 seconds.
Don't forget Saturday afternoon, the Detroit Red Wings will be taking the afternoon off, and the Harlem Globetrotters will be in action, and then at 8 o'clock, both Saturday and Sunday, the Red Wings playoffs begin at the Joe Louis Arena. Tickets on sale at the box office. They are available for the individual games. Steve Yzerman back in his own zone now. Starts out center ice. Pass tipped away by Brown of Chicago. And Brown shot it right up into his bench.
In the second period,
we have 2 minutes to play here now in the first period. Hawks opening a 3-0 lead.
2 and Buffalo 1. Also at the end of 2 periods, Washington 1, the New York Islanders 0.
One thing this big crowd does for this Blackhawk team is give them a lift every time they score a goal or come close to scoring a goal. This crowd just gets up in their seats and really cheer them on, and they respond with a great burst of speed in most cases.
Randy Laddiser dumps it back into the Chicago zone, and the Wings are trapped offside. We have 1 minute and 43 seconds still to be played in the first period.
These 2 quick goals, I believe, have taken the sails out of the Wings. They just knocked them right on their backs. They can't believe it.
You have to think of the times that the Red Wings came so very close to tying it. What a different hockey game it would be. Puck sliding back into the Chicago zone. Brown has it there. Brown just lifts it back to the Detroit end, and Steve Yzerman will chase it down. Yzerman out in front of his own goal, lifts it high in the air up into the crowd.
These are mistakes that the Wings are making now. Steve Yzerman, a much more intelligent hockey player than that, going in deep in his own zone and then not being able to carry him off the boards, causing the face-off deep in Detroit's zone, just puts more pressure on them.
Tell you, we almost had a Red Wing casualty over there, Marian Illich. That puck just missed her by a foot or two, and somebody trying to catch it landed on top of her. Off to the left side of the Detroit goal. Duguay with Yzerman and Gallant. Right out in front of the Detroit net. Slides into the corner. Fraser shot it in behind the Detroit goal. Larson couldn't hold it. Olczyk has it. Olczyk back of the net again. Back of the goal is Troy Murray. Larson moved in, took it away from him, and as Yzerman moving out to center ice. Steve Yzerman lifts the puck into the Chicago zone. It goes right to the net. Bannerman makes an easy save and passes it off, and the play goes back into the Detroit zone. Ladouceur covering up on Olczyk. Now Olczyk digs it away, shoots it right back into the Detroit zone. Brad Park in after it, being chased by Murray. Puck is still in. There's going to be a penalty coming up to Detroit, and now Troy Murray goes after Brad Park. Well, Park was going to get the penalty, and then Murray came charging in after Brad Park, landed a couple.
Well, Murray will
Two of them go down on the ice, and they'll both go off.
This is the first flare-up since the 42nd mark of the first period of the start of the game.
So the two of them in a little wrestling match with the two linesmen trying to separate them right now. Brad Park is on top.
Well, Brad was going to get a penalty for elbowing. He really threw the elbow and stopped the Chicago player right in his tracks. But then Troy Murray come in to help out, and it's Troy Murray that's down on the ice with Park on top.
So we'll await the calls. We have just 51 seconds to go here in this first period. Troy Murray yelling across at Park. Brad Park's been around long enough to know what it's all about. 17th time in his career that he has been in the playoffs, and he's been in the league 17 years. That's a pretty good record.
This is a new record for a player. Jean Beliveau had the record, 16. And Park now playing in the 17th consecutive playoffs Stanley Cup.
Park is going to get a holding call, along with a fighting, I imagine. They went into the corner together, and Brad Park actually did put a pretty good hold on.
Right, he just went up
Troy
over him. I thought he threw an elbow, and he didn't. He went up over him and grabbed him pretty well by the head, but then Murray come back. He was the one that was doing all the punching. Then Brad Park got a hold of him and threw him on his back.
Well, they've given Park, believe it or not, the additional 2 minutes. That's hard to figure.
Well, he was getting the original penalty, Bruce.
Yeah, I guess so. But then
2 minutes for holding, 5 minutes for fighting.
I would have thought, though, that when Murray came in, he'd have to get a roughing call to go together with the fighting. At any rate, the Hawks will have the extra man for the final 51 seconds of this period. Savard up front with Secord and Larmer. Red Wings have Foster and Mano out as penalty killers, and Foster drives it off the boards. Bob Mano tipped it to the blue line. He and Wilson battle there, and the Red Wings get it out center ice. Here is Steve Larmer sending it over on the right side. Puck driven back into the Detroit zone. Secord tied up by Mano. Puck came back to the line for Doug Wilson. Wilson lines up, didn't take the shot, hands it off the circle to Savard. Then as Savard drove a shot, and Stepan got in front of that, made a good save. Back on the line for Wilson again. Doug Wilson drives a shot, and Foster blocked it. Then it's intercepted by Bob Mano, and Mano just skates it slowly out to center ice. Hands it off now to John Barrett, charging in with a backhand shot. And Bannerman had to stop that one. Hawks come right back. Savard, 5 seconds in the period. Puck slid to Stepan. Stepan steers it away, and Mano flips it out to center ice as the siren goes to end the first period of play. So from here in Chicago Stadium, we had a 1-0 lead for the Hawks until 16:33 of the period. And then 2 goals. They came 33 seconds apart, opening up a 3-0 lead for Chicago over the Red Wings. When the second period starts, Brad Park will have still 1 minute and 9 seconds of his penalty time remaining. Sid will be having his conversation with Chicago's Ed Olczyk on television. You'll be catching up with the sports news of the day on radio. But before that, we pause for this.
Renault introduces 5 years or 50,000 miles. Plus, protection on required maintenance. Small car protection even better than Chrysler. 550 plus on all Renaults like the Alliance sedan. Stylish Renault Encore and 8.5, America's lowest factory financing. European technology with America's best small car protection. Only from Renault.
Give me a light. A Bud Light.
If you just ask for a light beer, you never know what you'll get.
And I'll have a light. A Bud Light.
So if you want the less filling light beer with the first name and taste, don't just ask for a light beer.
Give me a light.
Ask them to bring out their best.
Bud Light.
Bud Light. Because everything else is just a light.
Before you go looking for a store and end up going in circles, bank on the Ameritech Michigan Bell Yellow Pages to get the tips that are so on target. When you take a shopping trip, you'll be sitting pretty, right on top of things. So unless you've got money to burn and time to waste, wake up. Before you open the door, open the book. The Ameritech Michigan Bell Yellow Pages. Next to the phone, there's nothing better.
What has red ripe tomatoes, garden fresh lettuce, onions, mushrooms, seasoned salami, lean ham, layers of cheeses, and a dressing famous for its taste on buns baked fresh every day? What has 25 different varieties like steak, burger, or Italian, made to order hot or cold, ready in minutes? And what can be found in 32 convenient locations? What else? Tubby's famous submarine sandwiches. The last place you had a sub this good was here.
There are two ways to open an individual retirement account. The hard way, waiting until tax time, finding enough money and the best rate, or the easy way, with an Easy IRA from Michigan National. We'll automatically deposit money into an Easy IRA from your checking or savings account all year long. So when tax time rolls around, your tax break is all set up. We'll even pay you an extra 0.25%. Come to Michigan National and open an Easy IRA. We give you more money for your money.
And as they did last night in all three periods, again in the first period here tonight, the Red Wings outshot the Chicago Blackhawks 13-7, but they're on the losing end of a 3-0 score. Well, we have Sid Abel standing by with a young man who came right out of the Chicago area, earned his way into the National Hockey League, and played his first game in Stanley Cup play last night, and what a job he did. Ed Olczyk joins Sid Abel.
Ed, congratulations on a great season, and of course, congratulations on your night's work last night. 2 goals and an assist. How'd it feel?
Well, it was a great experience in my very first playoff game, and I just wanted to go out last night and work hard, and things really bounced my way last night.
Now, can you just explain the goal here? This is your first goal, Ed.
Okay, well, Kurt Frazier was being tailed by Larry Trader there, and I just was screaming for the puck as loud as I could, and Kurt gave it to me, and I just put it right in the net.
All right, now, when you fell into the boards, you were a little upset when Trader come by. It appeared as though his skate hit the back of your helmet when you were down.
Yeah, well, that's, when I was laying there and I was going to get up, and I really didn't see him coming. I don't know if it was accidental or intentional, but, being a rookie in the league, a lot of teams want to test you out and see if you could, handle the pressures, and I just wasn't going to let anybody show they can do that to me.
Ed, I have to ask you this. You're the youngest player in the National Hockey League at 18, playing in your hometown. Does that cause a problem?
Well, I think earlier in the year it did. I put a lot more pressure on myself because I am from Chicago, and I wanted to, play well in front of my family and my friends. And I really, the last couple weeks at home, I've really bore down a lot, and I just went out there and worked hard and tried to make things happen.
Second goal you scored last night, you went upstairs with this puck.
Yeah, well, I picked up the puck at center ice. I came in, and Mikuloff was sort of coming out, and I just saw the upper corner, and I put it in there. That was my first 2-goal game in my NHL career.
Well, that is really something in your first National League game. You played for the U.S. national team, and then you turned pro with the club I understand that you wanted to play with, the Blackhawks, were drafted by them. Just what difference do you find between, say, the National Hockey Team and the National Hockey League?
Well, last year with the Olympic team, we played a lot of minor league teams, college teams, and a few NHL teams. And when we were over in Yugoslavia before the Olympics, you're playing the best in the world, and the intensity was so high at the Olympics. And you come here in the National Hockey League, you have an 80-game grind, and you play 80 games to get into the playoffs. And we're very fortunate. We made second place this year, and that's why we're fighting for this playoff spot here.
Ed, before joining the national team, I've got to ask you, you were born and raised right here in Chicago. Did you play all your minor league hockey right here?
Oh yeah, ever since I started when I was 6 1/2, all the way until I was 16 years old, and I went up to Stratford Stratford, Ontario, and played a year of junior B hockey, and then last year with the U.S. Olympic hockey team.
Thanks ever so much.
Thank you very much.
You go back and get a rest and continued success.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Very good. Thank you. Now let's go back to Bruce Martin.
Well, thank you, Sid. And there's a young man that really has it all together, Ed Olczyk, the youngest player in the National Hockey League. The score here is 3-0. The Detroit Red Wings trail the Chicago Blackhawks after the first period, and we'll be back with more after we pause for this.
Guests on Red Wing Hockey receive a gift certificate for Dexter shoes from Sibley's. Stop into Sibley's and slip on a pair of Dexter California cushions. You'll see why we call them walking wonders. Sibley's Shoes, Michigan's largest Dexter dealer. With 37 stores in Michigan, there's one near you.
My daughter calls it the Blue Bomber. My wife thinks I ought to get rid of it. And when it needed a new muffler, well, I was afraid she might be right.
Listen, I don't want to spend too much on this car.
Midas had a muffler that was perfect for my budget. Now the old Blue Bomber sounds almost as good as new. And heck, she doesn't look that bad.
Just the Midas touch.
See your Greater Detroit Midas dealer for exhaust, brake, and suspension service you know you can trust.
Just for the rock of it, just for the roll of it. Diet Coke. Just for the look of it, just for the kick of it, the real cola taste of it. Diet Coke. Just for the joy of it. Just for the just for the love of it. Just for the one of it. From Coca-Cola. Just for the taste of it. Diet Coke.
You are watching Red Wing Hockey. Tonight's intermission activities will continue after this.
The night janitor at WJR eyes the microphone of fantasy forms.
We have cooler, drier air move into the region.
Good morning, world. I'm J.P. McCarthy.
You're so vain.
You have that right. We're back over the city. WJR traffic copter.
Men with deep, resonant voices are sexier.
Lady.
We'll get this turkey on the road right after this.
JR stands for Detroit. That's who.
Cooper has always given you the best protection in hockey. Now we've got you covered right down to the ankles. Introducing new Cooper Ruse skates with our exclusive Cooper Comfort Wedge. It supports and locks your heel and ankle into place for a long-lasting, comfortable fit. Because better fit means better skating power and control with every stride. Ask for Cooper Ruse with the Cooper Comfort Wedge. The world plays hockey with Cooper.
Dunham's, sports outfitters since 1937. Dunham's, everything in sports at a discount.
Don't you wish everything fit as well as Lee jeans fit on you? Don't you wish everything felt as good? Don't you wish everything only could? Don't you wish everything fit?
Lee pre-wash jeans from just $16.99. Available now at all 6 Dunham Sports locations.
Back live here at the Chicago Stadium. The Red Wings and the Hawks have played one period, and it is 3-0 for Chicago. Sid, for most of that first period was a game much closer than a 3-0 score would indicate.
It was a good hockey game, and then 2 quick goals late in the period, and it just seemed to knock the wind right out of the Red Wings. The first goal, Sutter picking up an early goal on a pass. I guess you have to say it a pass. Troy Murray shot the puck from the blue line, and he put it in. But then Yaremchuk taking a little play right at the blue line line that Brad Park misplayed, and his speed got him in around the outside, and with a backhand shot, he went up high and beat Greg Steffen to give them a 2-0 lead. And then just 33 seconds later, Secor, but the play was all Savard. Savard taking the play, going around behind the net. Brad Park chasing him. He just circled and then put it right back over to Secor. Secor was there by himself. I think you could have scored that, Bruce. It was right there he was there by himself, and 3-0 lead at the end of the first period.
Well, I mentioned during the course of the telecast that I didn't know why they gave assist to their Yaremchuk goal, but Wilson did throw the pass, and it bounced off Brad Park, and the goal was scored by Yaremchuk. Greg Steffen in the Detroit goal, Murray Bannerman in the nets for Chicago, and the Wings outshot them 13-7. Well, we have our scoring summary brought to you by Shell Auto Care Centers. It was Sutter from Murray and Lysiak at 5:49, Yaremchuk from Doug Wilson and O'Callahan at 16:33, and then at 17:06, Savard setting up Al Secor. This has been the Shell Auto Care scoring summary, where you get repairs backed in writing. The Detroit Red Wings and the Chicago Blackhawks here at Chicago Stadium. The second of the best-of-5 game series, Saturday night, the third game to be played at the Joe Louis Arena. We'll be back with a second period here in Chicago. Let's pause first for this.
Intermission guests on Red Wing Hockey will receive a $250 gift certificate for tires and auto service from Metro 25 Car Care Centers. Metro 25 has over 30 locations in the Metro Detroit area, or a gift certificate from President Tuxedo. When the occasion is truly special, President Tuxedo helps you celebrate in style. President has all the finest designer and famous maker formal wear fashions, including Calvin Klein formal wear, available exclusively from President Tuxedo.
What does it mean when a Shell dealer displays this sign? It means he makes these important promises: to give you a written estimate up front, to have certified mechanics, and the right equipment for the job. And he backs his work in writing. In a word, your Shell Auto Care dealer promises to give you quality car repair service right here in your neighborhood. Look for this sign: Shell Auto Care.
You'll really score this season with a great taste of Kowalski quality on your team. For pregame meals or just a quick snack between goals, you can't beat Kowalski Stadium kielbasa and luncheon meats. Made delicious the old world way. Kowalski now, and treat yourself to flavor. And now, enjoy delicious Stadium kielbasa, available when you visit Joe Louis Arena for the next Red Wing game. Kowalski, your hockey season favorite.
Renault introduces 5 years or 50,000 miles. Plus, protection on required maintenance. Small car protection even better than Chrysler. 550 plus on all Renaults like the Alliance sedan. Stylish Renault Encore and 8.5, America's lowest factory financing. European technology with America's best small car protection. Only from Renault.
Strength, pride, tradition. For centuries, the Clydesdales have been known as a special breed. Today, the Clydesdales symbolize Budweiser's dedication to quality, superior ingredients, exclusive beechwood aging, and a distinctively clean, crisp taste only Budweiser can offer. Quality taste, because this Bud's for you.
Tonight's Red Wing game is brought to you in part by the Michigan State Lottery. Somebody's going to win. Why not you? And by Tubby Sub Shops. Every sandwich is a fresh, nourishing meal in itself. Visit one of their over 40 locations today.
Back here at the Chicago Stadium, where the Detroit Red Wings are trailing Chicago Blackhawks 3-0 after the first period of play. We'll take a look at the out-of-town games. An interesting group of games again tonight. The Boston Bruins, who defeated Canadiens in the first game, have gone right back into Montreal and lead them 3-2 in the third period tonight. The Buffalo Sabres, who lost to Quebec, are trailing again 2-1. That game is also in the third period, and Quebec leading that series 1-0. In the other games going on around the National Hockey League's playoffs tonight, the New York Rangers and Philadelphia Flyers went into overtime last night, and they're all tied at 1-1 tonight. And the New York Islanders are trailing Washington Capitals 1-0. Washington won last night in overtime. Hawks coming back out onto the ice. St. Louis Blues trying to even their series. They were beaten by Minnesota right in St. Louis last night. St. Louis leads 1-0 in the second period. Calgary and Winnipeg. Calgary lost to Winnipeg last night. Calgary leads that hockey game in Winnipeg 1-0, and that game 2 in the second period in Winnipeg. The Red Wings make that long climb up a lot of stairs here to get up onto the ice. The dressing room's down below the ice surface. Los Angeles and Edmonton, incidentally, had a heck of a hockey game last night. Los Angeles tied it. They went into overtime. Edmonton won it on an almost fluke sort of goal scored by Fogelin, who just doesn't score goals. I'm sorry, Sid.
I was going to mention that Larry Trader did not see much ice time in the last 10 or 12 minutes of that first period. And I thought possibly he was injured, but he is out here skating around with the team. They went with 4 defensemen in the last 10 or 12 minutes of the period.
Big sign up here by Chicago fans who have a good deal to cheer about. They figure the Chicago club will be the 1985 Stanley Cup champions.
Well, this team has really improved over the past month and a half of the hockey season, and they are to be reckoned with because they can skate. They have fellows that can score goals, and they can be feisty. They've got some beef back there. Great defenseman, Doug Wilson.
And they have a power play opportunity for the first minute and 9 seconds now as the second period is underway. Doug Wilson drives it back into the Detroit zone. It goes in along the boards, but it went in offside. So the play comes back out to center ice. Brad Park at a minute 9 seconds remaining in his penalty. He went off for holding and also drew an additional 5 minutes for fighting. He and Troy Murray at 19:09 of the first period. Got about a minute remaining in that penalty now. Dennis Savard, he centers Secord and Larmer. Red Wings have Mano and Foster out as penalty killers. Lattiser and Reed Larson. Puck comes back to the Chicago blue line. Murray carries center ice and drives it into the Detroit zone. Knocked away by Lattiser. The Wings didn't get it out. It's held in at the blue line. Here's Doug Wilson. Played it into the corner. Secord will take it in behind the Detroit goal. Back on the right point to Bob Murray. Here's Murray handing it back to Wilson. Wilson over along the side to Savard. Now Doug Savard, Dennis Savard just holds it there. Played it back to Wilson. Sets up Murray. Murray's return pass, and Savard had to chase it down. Here's Wilson from the blue line, and the shot blocked by Foster. Lattiser takes it out of the corner. Randy Lattiser pinned it along the boards, didn't get it out. It's still deep in the Detroit zone. They bounce one another, then Foster moved in and intercepted. Hands it off to Mano, and Bob Mano brings it back over the line into the Chicago zone. He pulled it back out over the line and put his team offside.
Credit the assist to Dennis Savard and Steve Larmer.
They've had an assist to Steve Larmer on that Secord goal.
Scored by Secord from Savard.
So it's Secord from Savard and Larmer at 17:06.
In the third period,
they've been very, very good about handing out assists here in this two-game set.
Canadians have scored to tie the game with Boston 3-3. Now 10 seconds remaining in the penalty to Detroit's Brad Park. Here's Keith Brown coming out of his own zone, driving it back into the Detroit end. The Hawks setter held it in the corner. Going in after him was John Ogrodnik, and Ogrodnik dug it away. Now Gallant comes back out. He was serving the minor penalty for Park. Wings are back at full strength, and Smith carried over the blue line, but Gallant beat him in, and the play is offside.
We have a lot of Red Wing fans here. Joe Worm wants to say hello to the Wall family and the Worm family, and Mike and Rick, all loyal Red Wing fans back in Detroit. Bob and Peggy Miller from Detroit say hello to everybody back at home. And John Asadorian would like to say hello to his uncles Frank Asadorian back in Livonia and Dave Ambedian in Windsor.
Red Wings tried to get John Ogrodnik out there, but the referee disallowed it. Ogrodnik goes back to the bench. Detroit now with Yzerman, Gallant, and Duguay. Puck sliding into the Chicago end. The Hawks have it there. Here's Keith Brown handing it off to Ben Wilson. Wilson drives it in behind the Detroit goal, digging into the corner after it is Gardner. Bumped heavily to the boards by John Barrett, but the play right out in front of the Detroit goal goes to the corner. Now Fraser handed it back of the net. Olczyk overskated it. Gardner takes it off the boards. Back it comes to Brown. And a skate save by Stefan. Red Wings Duguay heads back down the ice, over the line into the Chicago zone. Barrett dumped it up over the glass. It goes into the crowd. So the score remains 3-0 for the Blackhawks. A pause in the action, and we'll be back in a moment.
Where are you hurting the most, Jimmy?
Name it. Better straighten up.
Yeah, we don't want to disappoint your fans.
No.
Hey, Jimmy, good run.
You had him right from the gate.
Your best deserves the best.
Two Bud Lights.
The less filling light beer with a first name and taste.
Hey, Jimmy!
Right.
Bud Light.
Bruce Martin along with Sid Abel, our producer-director Toby Cunningham here in Chicago. It was 1-0 and a goal by Sutter until 3.5 minutes remained to be played in the first period. The Hawks scored twice. Lead it 3-0, and here they move in again. Fraser with a drive, and it stops by Stefan. Knocked away to Yzerman, and Steve Yzerman heads back. Here's Yzerman over the line, back into the Chicago zone. Yzerman, he was double-teamed there. Puck knocked away from him. The Hawks will bring it out with Fraser. Kurt Fraser being bothered from behind by Duguay. Got it into the Detroit zone. And it's broken away by Lattiser. Coming right back, Gallant. Jared Gallant took the long shot, deflected wide of the Chicago goal, and the Hawks Olczyk knocks it down and heads right back down the ice. Bill Gardner gives it back to Olczyk into the Detroit zone, and Duguay knocked it down. Here's Gallant. Gerard Gallant brings it back out center ice. Gallant drives a long shot. Bannerman has no trouble with that, and Jerome Dupont will start back for Chicago. Olczyk tips it out center ice for Fraser. Fraser put it right on the stick of John Ogrodnik, and Ogrodnik back over the line with a drive, and he whistled that one just wide. Secord took it off the boards, rolls it ahead for Steve Larmer. That puck went high in the air. Reed Larson will pick it up and shoot it the length of the ice. So there'll be an icing call against Detroit. Just past the 3-minute mark of the second period.
Detroit having problems getting things going. Chicago skating well and picking up their checks and knocking Detroit off the puck. Detroit's shots have been from well out. They're not working in close and causing Bannerman any problems. They're shooting from 50 and 60 feet, and most goaltenders will handle shots from that area. Occasionally, maybe an Ogrodnik or a Larson will beat them from well out, but most cases you have to have a screen set out in front of the net if you're going to be shooting from 50 feet.
Now the play in the Detroit zone. Lattiser chases it down in the corner. Randy Lattiser in behind his own goal. Left it there for Larson. Back to Lattiser. And Reed Larson will skate it now to the center ice area. His pass to Kissio. Over the line into the Chicago zone. Kissio hands it off to Lattiser with a drive, and he fired it a good 5 feet wide of the goal. And the puck all the way back to the Detroit blue line is Reed Larson. Plays it ahead to Kissio. Kelly Kissio lost it. Larmer will head right back to the Detroit zone. The Red Wings, rather the Hawks carry it in, but a very late whistle by the linesman Hodges, but the play is offside.
One more little social note. Tom Wolseley would like to say hello to everybody back at Andrews on the corner in Detroit.
In the first period,
Dennis Savard, what a talented young hockey player he is. 39 goals this season. Finished, I believe, tied with John Ogrodnik in the scoring, 7th overall. And he is the franchise here in Chicago. They have a lot of young hockey players that are very, very capable, including the boy that I talked to, Ed Olczyk. But Savard is color. He is a great-looking young hockey player.
Now the Hawks clear it right back into the Detroit zone. It slid back into the Chicago end. Doug Wilson goes into the corner after it. Up the left wing to Sutter. Sutter a right side pass. And Yaremchuk checked there by Bob Mano. The Wings this time again cleared the length of the ice. This time it was Barrett. Another icing call. And again the play all the way back into the Detroit zone. 4 minutes have been played here in the second period. 3-0 Chicago as we pause now for this.
There are two ways to open an individual retirement account. The hard way, waiting until tax time, finding enough money and the best rate, or the easy way, with an Easy IRA from Michigan National. We'll automatically deposit money into an Easy IRA from your checking or savings account all year long. So when tax time rolls around, your tax break is all set up. We'll even pay you an extra 0.25%. Come to Michigan National and open an easy IRA. We give you more money for your money.
Chicago Stadium jammed to capacity, and they make a lot of noise. They see their team out in front 3-0. A lot of time left in the hockey game. Red Wings didn't dress for tonight's game. Ivan Boldarev with the return of Danny Gare. Now the play goes in behind the Detroit net. John Barrett in after it. Here is Barrett swinging it out to center ice, so Callahan takes over for the Hawks. Shot it right back to the Detroit line, and Barrett goes back after it. John Barrett being chased by Lysiak in behind his own goal. The puck loose in the corner. Lysiak shot it in behind the net, and Steffen came out, took a whack in behind the goal from Yaremchuk, but the Wings will shoot it back to the Chicago blue line. Now the Hawks cleared it back into the Detroit zone. The Hawks dig it away. Yaremchuk sets his man off with a shot blocked by John Barrett. Cutting in Lysiak, but John Barrett made the save. Now Darryl Sittler at center ice. He's playing with Mano and Foster now. The puck back into the Chicago end. The Hawks have control there. Doug Wilson laid it back toward the line. Barrett holds it in, took a shot, and deflected way wide of the goal. Yzerman out of the corner, sets up Larson with a drive, and he shot it wide.
All he had to do was hit the net.
Play comes back into the Detroit end, and John Barrett is back after it. 15 minutes to play here in the second period. John Barrett hit Larson in the back with a pass, and the puck went into the Chicago end. The Hawks clear it back out center ice. Duguay drops it off for Larson, ahead to Yzerman. Now Steve Yzerman carries back in. Here's Yzerman moving out in front with a shot. And that didn't miss by much. And now we have Ogrodnik, Duguay, and Yzerman back together. First time in the playoffs. Puck goes in behind the Chicago goal. Larson tried to hold it in, but it took a funny bounce off the boards. And here's Olczyk shooting it back into the Detroit zone. Randy Ladouceur goes in after it. Olczyk pumped it away from him. In behind the goal now, Chicago's Fraser sends it back on the line to Brown. Brown laid it off to the side of the goal. Bill Gardner being chased by Duguay. Still the Hawks have the pressure on. A loose puck. Yzerman took it into the corner, didn't get it out. Then Wilson for the blue line with a shot. Knocked out in front of the goal. John Ogrodnik tips it ahead for Ladouceur. Randy Ladouceur center ice to Larson. Reed Larson on the left side to Yzerman. Into the Chicago zone. A setup for Duguay right out in front. And Ogrodnik couldn't get to it. Now the Hawks will just lift it back into the Detroit zone. They wave off icing. The Wings are getting some chances. 3-0 Chicago. Wings have the play in behind their own goal. Ladouceur plays it ahead to Ogrodnik. Just tips it out center ice, and the Hawks take it there, shoot it right back in. Steffen stops it in behind his own net. Reed Larson lost it back there. Puck came out in front. They dig away at it. Here's Savard. Savard twisting and turning with it. Now Dennis Savard laid it right out in front of the Detroit goal again, but Ladouceur is there to take it away. Randy Ladouceur has trouble with it. Scoops it center ice. John Ogrodnik tied up there along the boards. Now Secord played it right back into a pileup of players, so they whistle it down. It is still 3-0. Chicago leads Detroit with 13 minutes to play in the second period. We'll be back in a moment.
What has red, ripe tomatoes, garden fresh lettuce, onions, mushrooms, seasoned salami, lean ham, layers of cheeses, and a dressing famous for its taste on buns baked fresh every day? What has 25 different varieties, like steak, burger, or Italian, made to order, hot or cold, ready in minutes? And what can be found in 32 convenient locations? What else? Tubby's famous submarine sandwiches. The last place you had a sub this good was here.
Officials got cut in the head down there. They're out of Minnesota, the minor officials handling this game.
Greg Steffen took a shot. Here he went behind the net to make a play, and he got run in.
Yaremchuk.
Yaremchuk, and it appeared as though he hurt himself a little bit. The official got cut right in the timer's box when John Ogrodnik was checked right out in front of them. He'll have a remembrance of the Stanley Cup game in Chicago. Here from Minnesota, as you mentioned.
Darryl Sittler, Gallant, and Gare now as the Red Wings are switching their lines around. Face off at center ice. Savard, Larmer, and Secord up front for the Hawks. Now it's Greg Smith back in his own zone. Smith Holds it there. Savard chasing him around. Smith clears it ahead to Sittler. Sittler took a bump from Secord, took a whack from Secord. Danny Gare went over the blue line, fires a shot that Vanderman stops. Danny Gare heavily to the Chicago player, knocked him head over heels. That was O'Callahan as the play comes back into the Detroit zone, and Gare goes after it. Secord hauls Gare around. Here's John Barrett heading back for Detroit. Lost in glove again. Savard will carry back in, and Gallant intercepts his pass. It's getting rough once more. Now the Hawks start back. Larmer up the right side to Secord. Secord's pass deflected high by Barrett. Knocked down by Gare. Gare holds it in. Here's Larmer. And Steffen makes a fine save on that. Now the puck knocked down, stolen away by Larmer, and then Gallant came right back, took it away from him. Back at the Chicago blue line, O'Callahan leads it ahead. A penalty coming up to Detroit as Sutter laid it out in front of the Detroit net. Sittler grabs a hold of it, and they're going to call the penalty against the Wings.
I believe on Gerard Gallant.
Gerard Gallant will go off, and we'll be back with the Chicago power play in a moment.
Renault introduces America's best small car protection. 550 plus. 5 years or 50,000 miles plus required maintenance protection. Even better than Chrysler. Covers every new Renault, like a Lion sedan. Has 40 Encore. 550 plus on Renault Fuego. Renault Sport Wagon. And get America's lowest factory financing, 8.5%.
Hurry, save now at your Detroit area Renault dealers.
Gerard Gallant goes off for roughing, but earlier than that, Danny Gare went in with elbow high. He really creamed the
That started everything, but what a save Steffen made on Larmer with a drive from about 20 feet directly out in front.
But then Gerard Gallant picked up a roughing penalty in 8:02.
The game is getting chippy right now, especially you got to give the Chicago club a lot of credit. When one of their players get knocked or run down, they as a team come to his aid, and they will take the body.
Mano and Foster penalty killers again, and the Wings sweep it back into the Chicago zone. Ladouceur and Larson back along the Detroit defense. Now up the right side is Lysiak carrying to the Detroit line. Into the Detroit end. Ladouceur fell down, but still managed to swing the puck the length of the ice. Sutter, Lysiak, and Troy Murray up front for Chicago. The big line was on when the penalty was called, so they're getting a rest. Here's Gardner moving it back out. Up the right side to Murray. Troy Murray into the zone. Left it in the corner. Lysiak back on the line now to Gardner. Back to Lysiak off the rim of the circle. Bob Lysiak. Hawks have the extra man off the side of the goal. Sutter sets his man up. Ben Wilson and Steffen came out, cut the angle, and made another fine save.
And that's what Greg has to do. He has to come out and get through the traffic if he can and challenge the shooters. He makes an excellent play here. He gets outside of the traffic out in front of his net and makes the save. This is what goaltenders, with all that traffic in front, they don't have a chance at all if the puck goes through these screens. Get out in front of the screen when you can, and you're okay.
Don't forget the Red Wings play their next game Saturday night, the third game of this best of 5 opening round of Stanley Cup play. And tickets are on sale now at the Joe Louis Arena box office. The drive by Bob Murray knocked away by Steffen, and Ron Duguay digs the puck out and fires it the length of the ice. 55 seconds remaining in the Detroit penalty to Gallant. Doug Wilson starts back up the ice now for Chicago. Here's Wilson from center ice over the line, left it right there, and it's taken away by Ogrodnik. Duguay comes up with him, 2-on-1. Duguay with a shot, and he drove it over the top of the goal. Ogrodnik put it right back to the goal crease, and Vanderman reaches out and holds that, but Ron Duguay took the pass from Ogrodnik, and he didn't get the good one on it. It went up way over the top of the net.
That just shows when things aren't going right. It was a 2-on-1 break, and John Ogrodnik made the perfect play. He should have probably gone a little deeper and then made the play to him, but he made it with the defenseman still out in front of Duguay, so Duguay elected to shoot. The puck went up on edge, and Ron didn't get good wood on it and missed the net by a great margin.
Face-off will stay in the circle off to the left of the Chicago goal. 3-0, the Hawks lead it. They have a power play opportunity for 38 seconds. 5 time left in Gallant's penalty. Mano and Foster come back out now. Let's take 5 seconds for station identification.
This is TV 20, WXON, Detroit.
Chicago, time for a last rush. Moving it out center ice now as Bob Murray carries. Murray sweeps it ahead to Lysiak into the Detroit zone. Spun around by John Barrett. And Greg Smith has the opening and clears it the length of the ice. 20 seconds left in the penalty. Wilson in behind his own goal again for Chicago. Gives it there to Bob Murray. Now Murray sweeps it up the right side to Troy Murray. Murray drives it in behind the Detroit goal. It bounces along the boards. Sutter held it in. Greg Smith took it away. Smith played it back. It's held in at the blue line by Bob Murray. Off the circle to Troy Murray and in the corner to Lysiak. Now the penalty is over. Gallant is back on. Lysiak to the goal now. The Wings will head right back with John Barrett. Here's Barrett carrying over the line into the Chicago zone. And Lysiak came back and knocked it away from him. At center ice, Greg Smith's pass intercepted by Sutter. Darryl Sutter hands it off to Bob Murray. Knocked away from him by Eisenman, and now it's Gallant right back up the ice. Gerard Gallant over the line, put it right down in front of the Chicago goal, but there's nobody there. The Hawks Olczyk slides it up the left wing for Kirk Fraser. Here's Fraser coming out center ice. Over the line into the Detroit zone, pinned in along the boards by Larson. Andy Ladouceur just drives it down the ice, and I don't think that'll go far enough for an icing. It doesn't, and the Hawks will have to go back and play him. Ben Wilson in behind his own goal. Now Wilson's pass down the ice. Here's Olczyk trying to break by Ladouceur. Ladouceur knocked into the ice. Play loose to the side of the Detroit goal. Ladouceur covers up. Randy Ladouceur feeds it ahead to John O'Grudny. Now O'Grudny with a burst of speed over the line. Drops it off for Eisenman out in front. He shot it wide. Duguay pinned off the puck. Olczyk steers it ahead, and here's Gardner. With Olczyk trailing, Gardner over the line. Larson knocked it away from him. Randy Ladouceur ran into traffic back of the Detroit goal. Larson covers up. Reed Larson, center ice to Duguay. Ron Duguay, Eisenman over the line. Drops it off for a Grodnick with a drive. Eisenman struggled with it. Dugay's knocked down, and a penalty coming up to Chicago. Bannerman almost misfired it out. We'll be back with the Detroit power play. They trail by 3. Let's pause first for this.
If you're having trouble cutting your lawn, you should know about Honda's side discharge mower. It's easy to start, it's lightweight, so it's easy to use. And it's built so well, it may be the last lawnmower you ever buy. The Honda side discharge mower. Buy one and leave your troubles behind.
Weingart's Utica, quality lawn equipment, Waterford.
Ron Duguay making a beeline for the net in case there was a rebound on a Grodnick shot was interfered with by Doug Wilson. Wilson gets the penalty, and the Red Wings will go on a power play here.
Well, the Wings could indeed use a goal right here to get themselves back into it. They trail by 3. Penalty comes at 11:39. An interference called to Doug Wilson. Darryl Sittler, Kissio, and Garrett up front. Here's Brad Park at the left point. Park hands it off to Larson, off the circle to Kissio. Back on the line, Brad Park drove the long shot, knocked down in front, cleared the length of the ice by Bob Murray. Park will come back after. It goes in behind the Detroit goal. Now Park out in front of his own net, skates his way to center ice. Brad Park drives it in along the boards and behind the Chicago goal. Knocked away by Ludzik. Ludzik is grabbing onto that puck. He holds it, and a face-off stays in the Chicago end. Out of town, we'll check some of the other scores. The New York Rangers and Philadelphia Flyers remain tied at 1-1 in the third period at Philadelphia. New York Islanders trail Washington 1-0 in the third period in Washington. Boston Bruins and Canadiens all tied at 3-3 in the third period. That's at the Forum in Montreal, and Quebec at home to Buffalo, and that game was also tied 2-2. Third period. Minnesota trailing the St. Louis Blues 2-1 in the second period of the game being played in St. Louis. And Winnipeg has jumped back out in front of Calgary 2-1 in the second period. That game in Winnipeg. Los Angeles and Edmonton, they show nothing here, but the board shows Edmonton leading by a score of 1-0. Now the Red Wings with the extra man. John O'Grodnik's pass way out in front of Steve Yzerman, bounced all the way down the ice. Here's Troy Murray going right by Larson, going in. Stefan made the save. Another shot by Ludwig went on behind the Detroit goal. Stefan had to make quite a move. Right back down the ice, John O'Grodnik laid it in behind the Chicago goal. And the Hawks, every time they spot that puck anywhere, they dig after it. Play loose, comes back to the line now for Reed Larson. He drives a long shot, and Bannerman picks that one away. Bouncing puck knocked down by Rick Patterson, and Patterson lifts it the length of the ice. 40 seconds to go in the Detroit power play. 7 minutes in the second period. 3-0 Chicago. Here now is Yzerman heading out of his own zone. Yzerman coming out center ice. Laid it over the line. Yzerman is dropped back on the left point with Larson on the right side. Duguay, Kissio, and O'Grodnik up front. And again, the Hawks managed to clear it all the way back down the ice. Larson was just taking his time coming back after it, and Patterson almost beat him to it. Stefan had the yellow warning. O'Grodnik back into the Chicago end. Played it in toward the corner. Duguay goes in after it. Back to Yzerman. Yzerman off the circle, the side of the net to Duguay, trying to jam it in. He's up over by Doug Wilson. Now O'Grodnik holds it in the opposite corner. They tried to work it to the blue line. The penalty to Wilson is over it all, and the Hawks tip it to the blue line. Yzerman held it in there, and it's grabbed out in front of his goal by Bannerman. He'll hold on to it. So still, the game remains 3-0 for Chicago as we pause for this one.
Got me a case of the 501 blues, here from my waist right down to my shoes. You ain't got it, not like me. It's my shrink to fit permanent identity. 501 blues, legendary 501 blues. Levi's, Bud Light.
Brought to you by J.C. Penney, your headquarters for Levi's 501 jeans.
Well, the way the Chicago club is skating, you don't get a moment to relax. Reed Larson just relaxed a moment, and Chicago come within an eyelash of making it a 4-0 game. Greg Stefan make a sprawling save.
Troy Murray was the man that really tested him. Now the Hawks, Doug Wilson cleared it in behind his own goal. Gallant goes in after O'Callahan. They battle along the boards and ended up back of the net again, and Wilson has it there. He pretty well quarterbacks his club. His pass just missed Savard, goes the length of the ice. Barrett gets there first, and as he touches it, the icing call is against Chicago. I'll tell you, you just don't loaf back and touch that puck when you want an icing. You have to charge that.
Well, Chicago are playing with an awful lot of confidence. They have a 3-0 lead, and it makes it that much easier. We have a couple other Detroiters here. Adam Mitchell and Danny Belisle Jr. They're coaching Team Michigan in the first annual high school invitational all-star tournament here in Chicago. And Adam Mitchell wants to say hi to his wife Rosemary and his daughter Kimberly and the sons David and Paul.
Washington, or rather Quebec, has taken a 3-2 lead over Buffalo now. Washington continues to lead the New York Islanders 1-0. Darryl Sittler, Gallant, and Duguay, the forward line of the Wings now. Greg Smith and John Barrett back along the defense. Sittler waved out of the face-off circle, so is Savard. So Larmer will come in against Ron Duguay. Duguay, no stranger to face-offs. He's been a center much of his playing career. Duguay won the draw on a drive fired by Sittler, deflected away out in front of the goal. The Hawk Savard has it, lifts it out center ice. John Barrett takes it there, and Barrett flips it back into the corner of the Chicago end as Wilson goes in after it. Now Doug Wilson has Savard moving. Here's Savard up the left side, a pretty little pass to Secord into the Detroit zone. Dropped it off for Larmer. Larmer's shot blocked by John Barrett. Barrett kicks away at it, got it to the blue line, then knocked it away from Doug Wilson. Wilson has a pretty good grip on Barrett, who's trying to get loose.
Now, what a game John Barrett is playing here tonight. He has been body checking and carrying the play, doing just everything for the Red Wings to try to get them going.
Wings haven't used Larry Trader back along the defense tonight. Here's Wilson clearing at center ice, a bouncing puck over two lines when it was touched by Savard, so it's a long offside and the play back into the Chicago zone.
The second period is now Winnipeg 2.
Edmonton is leading the Los Angeles Kings 1-0 in the first period at Edmonton. Los Angeles took them into overtime last night.
This is the only series that, well, there's been really a margin of goals scored where Chicago won handily last night and have a 3-goal lead again tonight. All the other series are either tied or within 1 goal.
Now John O'Grodnik's pass knocked away, and coming out with it is Dupont of Chicago. Jerome Dupont carries into the Detroit zone, drops it off for Olczyk. He drilled one over the top of the net. Troy Murray flipped it in behind the Detroit goal. Reed Larson up the right side to Gare. Danny Gare has O'Grodnik moving center ice. Now O'Grodnik goes over the line into the Chicago zone. They took it into the corner. Troy Murray covers up there. Murray lifts it along the boards on the right wing for Olczyk. Pass broken away by Gare. Danny Gare golfs it into the corner. In after it is Yzerman. And the whistle has stopped the play. Gare and the Chicago player Dupont had the sticks up high. And the two of them are going to go in. We've got a line now of Gare, O'Grodnik, and Yzerman.
Well, I don't know. When things are not going right, I guess the policy is to switch lines, but it's pretty tough on a hockey team changing lines pretty well each shift now, but the Wings are trying to get something going, and they're just being checked too closely.
Kelly Kissio is going to be Sid's guest on television for the second intermission.
What a strong little gutty little hockey player he has been for the Wings. Possibly one of the best passers on the team.
High sticking penalties to the two of them, Gare and Dupont, at 15 minutes and 29 seconds. On radio, you'll be brought up with the late news of the day from the studios in our intermission. 3-0. Chicago scored all 3 goals in the first period, 2 of them just a few seconds apart. That's the difference in the hockey game. Here's Doug Wilson coming out. Each team short a man. Wilson drives his shot. Deflected high in the air, in behind the Detroit net.
And that hurt. Greg Steffen felt that shot. And he's flexing his arm, and they sting, I'll tell you that. And he is like the Reed Larson of the Red Wings. He can really fire the puck. It was partially deflected. Greg took it off the blocker. I think it's possibly just the way he had to throw his arm up that has got him. It was like a knuckleball going up there, just spinning and turning over.
Face-off will stay in the Detroit zone, off to the left of the Red Wing goal.
The Red Wings need a goal very bad here to get within 2.
They could get 1. They could make a hockey game.
Yes.
Dwight Foster and Ron Duguay now, the 2 forwards for the Wings, with Brad Park and Greg Smith. Savard lost the draw to Foster. Park carried it behind his own net. Savard knocked it away from him. Here's Secord. Secord checked in the corner by Greg Smith. Now Secord took a whack at Greg Smith. Smith is hauled down. And here's Secord with a puck, and covering up was Brad Park. Secord dug it away again and came out in front. Here's Ben Wilson moving right in. Savard and Steffen then stopped his rebound.
That's the Greg Steffen we know.
Steffen, just fantastic.
What a save on the first shot, and then the save on the rebound, and he come way out of his net to challenge.
There should have been a penalty call before that.
Yes, on Secor for pulling Greg Steffen's over talking to him, but it just shows when they let things go. But what a play made right there.
Greg Smith went over, had quite a conversation with referee Van Helleman.
Big Ben Wilson, I didn't think that he could pull the puck the way he did. He just pulled it around, and then he was right out in front. Greg made the save, the rebound come back, and he made the second save.
So each team remains short a man. 1 minute and 19 seconds remaining in the penalties to Gare and Dupont. 3-0 lead for Chicago. Would have been 4 were it not for the heroics of Greg Steffen. Now the Wings' Randy Ladouceur in behind his own net. Ladouceur then it ahead for Duguay. Duguay turns, still in the Detroit zone. Duguay out at center ice, too far out in front of Dwight Foster. Bounced up into the crowd. Foster, the Chicago player, Ben Wilson, had the elbows up right in the Detroit bench area. Now the gathering of players there.
There's no love lost here between these 2 teams, I'll say that. Foster trying to cut between the player and the boards. He run into lumber, and a lot of it by Ben Wilson. No penalties called.
Bench led by Brad Smith is giving it to Ben Wilson.
Boy, now there's a penalty.
slipped down over his eyes a couple of times. So the Hawks make a player change now. They come out with Savard and Secord. Doug Wilson and Bob Murray. Detroit remaining out with Foster and Duguay. Reed Larson and Lattiser. 1 minute and 3 remaining, and the penalty is to Guerin Dupont. Still, they don't drop the puck. The linesman talking to Secord. Hawks win the draw. Comes back into the Chicago zone, and Doug Wilson goes into the corner. Played it off the boards to Savard. Dennis Savard winding up, heading out. Here's Savard coming out center ice and burst to speed, and he lost control of the puck. Lattiser takes it. Heads right back for Detroit. Randy Lattiser back into the... Here's Lattiser going to the corner. Lattiser in behind the goal. He called down, and now they're finally going to call a penalty to Doug Wilson. And the Red Wings will have the power play opportunity. A 2-man shortage for Chicago, while the Red Wings are 1-man down for 38 seconds.
You know, this happens so often. He doesn't call something, and then if the team comes right back and tries to get in as Lattiser did, Lattiser going around the outside with Wilson chasing him, and Wilson just grabbed him by the arm and pulled him down. A penalty is called, and the Wings are going to have another opportunity with a power play to see if they can get on the board before this period's over.
A holding call to Doug Wilson at 16:51. Now the Red Wings have Kissio, Ogrodnik, Yzerman, and Larson. The only forward for Chicago, Yaremchuk. Don't make it Gardner.
And the Red Wings come into this playoff 11th best power play in the National Hockey League, but they have been stymied here in the first 2 games in Chicago, and they've had several opportunities.
Lysiak will now move out to be the only forward for Chicago. He's a good face-off man. Dupont receives a message from Chicago's Bob Murray, who skated all the way across the ice to talk to his fellow defenseman in the penalty box. Lysiak in against Kissio, off to the right of the Chicago goal. Kissio won the draw. Larson drive. He fired it wide. Now Kissio off the rim of the circle to Yzerman, in the corner to Kelly Kissio. Here's Kissio skating it along the boards. Kissio brought it out in front, hands it back to Larson. Another drive, and that deflected just wide of the goal. Kissio holds it in, skates it back to the blue line again. His pass is broken off by the Hawks, and Chicago's going to bring it out. Then Wilson skates it out center ice, turns it back into his own zone. He's dumped by Yzerman. And that could have been a penalty. Here's Steve Yzerman. Back over the line, giving it now to Kissio. Now the Wings are at full strength. The Hawks are 1-man short, but Dupont just out of the penalty box. Carries to the Detroit blue line, dumps it into the Red Wing zone, and Danny Gare tips it ahead now for Yzerman, and Yzerman's return pass didn't get through. Up the left side for Ogrodnik, John Ogrodnik. Put it out in front. Sittler's pass, or rather shot, never got away. The Hawks block that, shoot it back into the Detroit end. Now it's Stefan, who played it all the way center ice for Danny Gare. Came back to the Detroit line. Reed Larson has it knocked away and has to move back in after it. Larson had 12 shots on goal in the game last night. This time his pass deflected up into the crowd. And the Red Wing power play has not looked too powerful.
Well, I don't know if it's the Red Wings that are having the problem. I know this, Chicago are playing a terrific hockey game here tonight. They are on the puck carrier every time.
St. Louis and Minnesota are all tied at 2-2 now. And the one final score in, Quebec has defeated Buffalo 3-2. So they take a 2-0 lead in them. Red Wings have the extra man for 40 seconds now. The time remaining in the penalty to Doug Wilson. Here are the Hawks coming out. Bob Murray dumps it in behind the Detroit goal. Stefan stops it for Brad Park. Now Park out in front of his own net. Wings in the extra man, 25 seconds. Head to Lattiser. Over the line into the Chicago zone. Lattiser dumped it out in front. Puck slid into the corner. Dupont goes in after it. Worked it ahead now to Gardner. Gardner hands it back. Murray will carry center ice and again flip it in behind the Detroit goal. A workmanlike job of killing off the penalty by Chicago. center ice. The Hawks take it there. Oh, Wilson comes back on, and Chicago is in back at full strength. 3-0. Chicago leads the hockey game with a minute to play here in the second period. Dwight Foster, he is met with a heavy check by Keith Brown. Brown just got a little piece of him, though. Foster carries over the line. Brad Park trying to cut through. He was up there with a penalty coming to Chicago.
Well, he's starting to call things now. Luckily for Dwight Foster that he ducked down low, or he may have been up here in the box with us.
And Wilson is going to go off for hauling down Brad Park. 48 seconds remaining in the period. Detroit gets still another power play.
Penalty number 23, Ben Wilson, 2 minutes for slashing at 19-12.
Slashing call to Wilson.
Well, Brad Park trying to get in front of the net, and he had no chance at all. Ben Wilson just cut him down. The Wings getting all kinds of opportunities to maybe get on the board, but Chicago doing just a terrific job of killing their penalties.
Bob Pulford, what a job he's done. He took over the Chicago club back in early February. They were having all kinds of problems, and since that time, Pulford has led them to 17 wins, including the one last night, 7 losses, and 4 ties.
They were floundering when the change was made. They let Orville Tessier go and moved Pulford. He is their general manager and coach. The players respect him, I know that, like him.
Face-off will be to the left side of the Chicago goal. Troy Murray goes in against Eisenman. Buckley right there in the circle, but they whistled it down. Somebody moved it too fast. That ate up a second. The Hawks are a little unhappy with the linesman Bob Hodges. Hodges has been having his trouble all night long controlling the players who've been moving in and out of the...
Well, you talk about teams playing with intensity. This Chicago club certainly are putting an effort into their game. They have a very nice, comfortable lead, but they are not sitting back trying to protect that lead. They are going for more if they can.
Eisenman wins the draw. Brad Park tried to work into the corner. He's taken off the puck, though, by Doug Wilson. Now Steve Ludzik gains control of it, feeds it up the right side to Troy Murray. Murray goes over the Detroit blue line. Here's Troy Murray trying to move out in front. And he slid it just wide of the Detroit goal, and the wing set back with Brad Park. Park coming out center ice. 25 seconds left in the period. Park just slips it into the Chicago zone. Murray has it there and shoots it back into the Detroit end.
Well, individual rushes are not going to get Detroit on the board. They've got to get in, get established, and move the puck around in the Chicago zone.
10 seconds left in the period. John O'Grady crossed the blue line, fired a shot that was knocked away, cleared the length of the ice, and that'll lead up the remaining time here in the second period. The Red Wings will open the third period, trailing by 3 goals. They will have the power play opportunity for a minute and 12 seconds of time remaining in the carryover penalty to Ben Wilson. So that's the story from here at Chicago Stadium. We have played 2 periods of hockey. Chicago Blackhawks 3, the Detroit Red Wings nothing, and we'll be back in a moment.
Second period.
Bronco 2 never made it. S10 Blazer never made it. Only Jeep Cherokee is the triple award-winning 4x4.
Experience it for yourself. Get in. Only Cherokee gives you a choice of 2 or 4 doors. Only Cherokee has room for 5 and more cargo space than Bronco or Blazer. And with Cherokee's 2.5-liter power plant, you can get a sunroof at no extra cost.
Now you can have all this.
Only in a Jeep.
Give me a light. Bud Light.
If you just ask for a light beer, you never know what you'll get.
Give me a light. Bud Light.
So if you want the less filling light beer with the first name and taste, don't just ask for a light beer.
Hey, give me a light.
Ask them to bring out their best.
Oh, no, Bud Light.
Bud Light. Because everything else is just a light.
It's a wild place.
My daughter calls it the Blue Bomber. My wife thinks I ought to get rid of it. And when it needed a new muffler, well, I was afraid she might be right. Listen, I don't want to spend too much on this car. Midas had a muffler that was perfect for my budget. Now the old blue bomber sounds almost as good as new. And heck, she doesn't look that bad.
Trust the Midas touch.
See your Greater Detroit Midas dealer for exhaust, brake, and suspension service you know you can trust.
You are watching Red Wing Hockey. Tonight's intermission activities will continue after this.
There are two ways to open an individual retirement account. The hard way, waiting until tax time, finding enough money in the best rate, or the easy way, with an easy IRA from Michigan National. We'll automatically deposit money into an easy IRA from your checking or savings account all year long. So when tax time rolls around, your tax break is all set up. We'll even pay you an extra 0.25%. Come to Michigan National and open an easy IRA. We give you more money for your money.
What does it mean when a Shell dealer displays this sign? It means he makes these important promises: to give you a written estimate up front, to have certified mechanics, and the right equipment for the job. And he backs his work in writing. In a word, your Shell Auto Care dealer promises to give you quality car repair service right here in your neighborhood. Look for this sign: Shell Auto Care.
If you're having trouble cutting your lawn, you should know about Honda's side discharge mower. It's easy to start, it's lightweight, so it's easy to use, and it's built so well it may be the last lawnmower you ever buy. The Honda side discharge mower. Buy one and leave your troubles behind.
Cougar. And Sons Frazier.
With you again here at Chicago Stadium. The Detroit Red Wings trailing the Chicago Blackhawks by a score of 3-0. The 3 goals coming in the first period, a scoreless second period. Well, they talk about unsung hockey players, and I would put this fellow in the category of that area, because he's been a heck of a find for the Red Wings the past 2 seasons he's played. And here to join Sid Abel is Kelly Kissio.
Kelly, I echo Bruce's statements. First of all, I want to congratulate you on another fine season and your 2 assists last night. Even though it was in a losing cause, the Blackhawks paid you a terrific compliment today, saying that you were the only player on the Wings that played with any intensity last night. That must make you feel pretty good.
Well, first of all, thanks, Bruce. But as for the Blackhawks, saying that, you know, that does make me feel good. But I think it'd be a little better if the whole team could pull together and play better.
You know, you come into this playoff, Kelly, with a terrific power play record. I think 10th or 11th in the league. You've had a lot of opportunities, and I know Coach Bolano has mixed players up, but the power play doesn't seem to be effective at all.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. If we want to win this series, our power play has to work well, and up to this point, I don't think we have a power play goal, and we've had numerous chances, but I don't know, we're just disorganized. We have to have 3 men on the puck at all times, and we usually only have 1, so you know, you can't get anywhere unless you have 5 guys working as a team.
Well, you know, you have a lot of work cut out. It's hard sitting away up here in the stands as to the way this Chicago club, they seem to be on you every time you get a hold of the puck.
That's right. It seems like they have an extra man out there all the time. They're just working hard, and they're working harder than we are. All they're doing is dumping the puck in, and we always have the one guy high, so that if we do get a half a break, they're usually back in time to catch us, so we can't get any good scoring chances, and it's hurting our play, definitely.
You know, they always say that this big crowd is worth a goal to the Chicago team, Kelly. Do you, as a player, notice the crowd noise?
Oh, definitely. That right through the national anthem, they're cheering, and I think if they get the 1 goal like they did in the first period, you have to watch out so much for that second and third goal, because their crowd just goes crazy, and before you know it, their team gets inspired, and you're in trouble.
Well, listen, go back in the room and get a good rest. You know, there's still 20 minutes. A lot of things can happen.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Continued success, Kelly. Thank you. And now let's go back to Bruce Martin.
And our thanks to Kelly Kissio. And thank you, Sid. Here at Chicago Stadium, we are in the second intermission. The score is 3-0. The Chicago Blackhawks lead the Red Wings, and we shall be back after we pause first for this.
Tonight's Red Wing game is brought to you in part by the Michigan State Lottery. Somebody's going to win. Why not you? And by Tubby Sub Shops. Every sandwich is a fresh, nourishing meal in itself. Visit one of their over 40 locations today.
You could win $1,000 a week for life playing the new instant lottery game, Lifetime Deal.
Deposit, please.
Name?
Spangler.
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 $1,000 week after week.
Your usual deposit, Mr. Spangler?
Year after year.
Cigar, Mr. Spangler?
Morning, Ted. Morning, Ed.
Mr. Spangler. Imagine how that could add up.
Bye, boss. Home, Stanley.
Which one, sir?
Tubby Sub Shops present the American Sandwich Hall of Fame.
Here we see some old-fashioned sandwiches, the grilled cheese, the hamburger, the peanut butter and jelly. And here's the newest nourishing sandwich favorite of Americans, the most recent addition to the Sandwich Hall of Fame, Tubby Submarine Sandwich, made in 25 varieties. Each Tubby is a meal in itself, made fresh to order, hot or cold, with lots of meats, cheese, and vegetables. The whole family will agree, Tubby's is the best meal on a bun your money can buy.
Come eat with us at Tubby Sub Shops today.
Who says you can't have it all? Who says you can't have the fast track and time for you? Who says you can't taste the good life and have it look good on you? Michelob Light, oh yes you can. Michelob Light, oh yes you can.
Michelob Light, super premium taste in a less filling beer.
Michelob Light, oh yes you can. Have it all.
We are with you again here at Chicago Stadium, where the Detroit Red Wings are trailing by a score of 3-0. All three of the goals scored by Chicago in the first period. It was Sutter who scored, Sid, from Murray and Lysiak at 5:49, tipping in a shot from the blue line. And then those two goals, 33 seconds apart by Yaremchuk and Secord, kind of turned everything around. A scoreless second period. And let me ask you this. In all three periods last night, the Red Wings outshot Chicago, ended up outshooting them 51-30. In the first period, 13-7, and in the second period, 9-8. The shots on goal, Detroit has led in all 5 periods that they have played shots on goal.
Well, the shots on goal board, some games mean a lot, Bruce, but here tonight they're not. Most of Detroit's shots are from the 50, 60-foot area. They're not getting in close to really cause Bannerman much of a problem. Chicago are playing a terrific hockey game here. They're checking them. I think Kelly Kissio said, you just don't see him. It seems they have an extra man on the ice.
Now, Greg Stephan did play well in the first 2 periods in this game.
Oh, yes. Stephan is the Stephan that we know. He come up with big saves, and the gentleman carrying the play right there, John Ogrodnik, or John Barrett, has played a terrific 40 minutes also.
Well, the Red Wings have had 4 power play opportunities in the hockey game, including the one that will carry over into the third period. They haven't anything to show for it. What an opportunity. Well, there's John Barrett again. We were talking about him making a save out in front of Greg Stephan.
What a play right here. A body check right at the blue line. And here's a play where Ogrodnik broke down, and Duguay, I believe, trailed him. And really appeared as though it was going to be a 2-on-1. And Detroit, when they do get an opportunity, somewhere along the line, things are not just clicking for them, and they're messing them up.
We talk about unsung players, as I was doing a moment ago. John Barrett certainly fits that category. Let's take a look at our Shell Auto Care scoring summary in the second period. Well, we had no scoring. We had some penalties. The Red Wings had 3 power play opportunities. The Chicago Blackhawks won, but the Wings could not capitalize, and the Red Wings outshot Chicago 9-8 in that second period, giving them a total of 22-15 overall. The goal scorers, Sutter for Chicago is second of the series. Murray and Lysiak at 5:49 of the first period. Yaremchuk from Doug Wilson and O'Callaghan, and Secord set up by Savard, and they added an assist to Larmer. So that's our Shell Auto Care scoring summary. Shell Auto Care, where you get repairs backed in writing. The Red Wings down by 3. They've been outscored 12-5 so far in the series. Can they come back?
Yes, they can come back. They need a quick goal, though.
Well, we'll see if they can get it. We'll be back with third period action. Let's pause first for this.
Got got me a case of the 501 blues. Here from my waist right down to my shoes. You ain't got it, not like me. It's my shrink to fit permanent identity. 501 blues, legendary 501 blues. Levi's, Bud Light.
Brought to you by J.C. Penney, your headquarters for Levi's 501 jeans. Guests on Red Wing Hockey receive a Longines Wittnauer quartz watch from Meyer Treasure Chest Stores, Michigan's largest jeweler, featuring Longines, the world's most honored watch. Longines Wittnauer at all 16 Meyer Treasure Chest stores.
Who says you can't have it all? Who says you can't be somebody and still be you? Who says you can't taste life's best and not look like you do? Michelob Light. Oh, yes, you can. Michelob Light. Oh, yes, you can.
Michelob Light. Super premium taste in a less filling beer.
Michelob Light. Oh, yes, you can. Have it all.
What would you call a bacon so full of flavor it comes sliced extra thick?
Thornapple Valley.
A bacon prepared with Butcher Shop seasonings and cured over real hickory chips.
Thornapple Valley.
What would you call a bacon that sizzles and browns and sends off an aroma that will make your mouth water?
Thornapple Valley.
You'd call that bacon a delicious taste of country, but you can't taste the bacon unless you call it by name.
Thornapple Valley.
Renault introduces 5 years or 50,000 miles. Plus, protection on required maintenance. Small car protection even better than Chrysler. 550 plus on all Renaults like the Alliance sedan. Stylish Renault Encore and 8.5, America's lowest factory financing. European technology with America's best small car protection. Only from Renault.
Back we are here at Chicago Stadium. The Detroit Red Wings trailing the Blackhawks by a score of 3-0. We can take a look at the other games around the National Hockey League tonight. A couple of final scores. Montreal evening their series at a game apiece with the Boston Bruins at the Forum, beating Boston 5-3. The Quebec Nordiques took a 2-0 lead over the Buffalo Sabres by beating Buffalo close one in Quebec. Final score there 3-2. They got Tom Barrasso for 2 games. In the third period, New York Rangers and Philadelphia Flyers all tied at 1-1. Philadelphia went into the game tonight leading 1-0. New York Islanders and Washington also a 1-1 tie, and they're in overtime in the game in Washington. Minnesota and the St. Louis Blues 2-2 in the third period. North Stars upset St. Louis in St. Louis last night in the first game. And Calgary and Winnipeg again in the second period, all tied at 2-2. Edmonton still leads Los Angeles by a score of 1-0. And the Oilers scored in overtime to lead that series 1-0 in a game played last night. So really said, I'd have to say there aren't all that many surprises.
No, well, I would think possibly the Ranger game, 1-1 in the third period, Philadelphia and the Rangers. That could be quite a surprise. The Rangers finishing dead last in the division. And I would think, too, I'm kind of surprised that the Islanders and Washington, for the second night in a row, have had to go into overtime, and those games are being played in Washington.
Mike Ilitch talking with his son-in-law Jim Lights, a little concerned. I think right now he wanted to go back into Detroit with his team at least tied in the opening round here. Saturday night, our broadcast telecast time will be 8 o'clock out of the Joe Louis Arena. Third game of the best-of-5 series. And how do you think the Hawks will do without the crowd there to cheer them on?
Well, the Hawks have had the same problem in Detroit that Detroit have had over here. They've played 4 times over there this year, and they haven't been able to win in Detroit. So they know their work is cut out. But Detroit, coming in here, know that they have to win a game on the road. The Hawks don't have to win in Detroit and can win the series just by winning their 3 games that are going to be played here.
Red Wings are just now coming out of their dressing room. The Blackhawks have been out on the ice for quite a period of time. The Wings have not used Sid I am
the 3 kids
back, Claude Loisel, Larry Trader,
or Kosher.
for the game here tonight. Sitting out along with Chernick. And, of course, the Wings still have on the injured list Colin Campbell, Lane Lambert.
I was talking to Colin Campbell today. He said it would be possible that he could play back in Detroit. He has been skating each day. He said that his leg does lock up on him occasionally, but if somebody went down, I guess, meaning if some defensemen were injured, he would be able to play. Lane Lambert is not ready to play. They would have to get by this series before Lane could rejoin the club.
Well, we're about to get the third period underway. The Red Wings will have the extra man for 1 minute and 12 seconds. That's the time remaining in the penalty to Ben Wilson. He went off for slashing Detroit's Brad Park at 19:12 of the second period. Greg Steffen, who had his problems last night, has played very well in the goal tonight. Had one shot deflected by the goal by Sutter. Yaremchuk just took it away right at the Detroit blue line, skated right in on the Red Wing goal. And Secord took just a tremendous pass from Dennis Savard to have the puck right out in front of the Detroit net. And again, he didn't have any chance of that. He's made some outstanding saves.
Yes, you can't fault Greg Steffen for any goals tonight. He's been beaten the 3 times, but he's been beaten on plays where he had no chance to make saves on.
Yzerman, Duguay, and Ogrodnik up front on the power play with Ladouceur and Larson back along the point position. From the face-off, the play goes into the Detroit end. Here's Reed Larson circling in behind his own goal. 55 seconds left in the penalty now as Larson heads out. Reed Larson skating his way to center ice. Here's Larson driving it in behind the Chicago goal, and it's tipped beyond Ladouceur by Rich Patterson. Comes back out center ice, and Yzerman is back after it. Steve Yzerman at his own blue line feeds it ahead. It hit the skate of John Ogrodnik. Ogrodnik just took it off the board, shot it into the Chicago end. The Hawks return it to the Detroit zone. Reed Larson has it there. 30 seconds left in the penalty. Yzerman back into the Chicago end. Here's Yzerman pulled up at the circle. Steve Yzerman took it into the corner. Yzerman still holding it back on the line now to Ladouceur. Here's Reed Larson off the circle to John Ogrodnik. Back to Larson at the point. Reed Larson skates along the line. Larson all the way to the opposite point. Now he has Ogrodnik set up with a drive. And Bannerman got a piece of that and knocked it away. And it's tipped back out center ice by Patterson. And the penalty is over as Ben Wilson comes on. And the Wings 4 times at the power play and haven't been able to click. Now the puck driven back into the Detroit end, and Reed Larson back after it. Larson sends it off to John Ogrodnik, tipped away from him. Ogrodnik turns back into behind his own goal. He and Larmer go to the ice. Ladouceur trying to work it out, but Secord moved in, muscled him off the puck. And Ladouceur came up with it again. Plays it ahead to Duguay. Ron Duguay coming out. Here's Duguay, checked from behind by Secord. Right back down the ice is Wilson. Then Wilson into the Detroit zone, drops it off for Savard. Dennis Savard trying to center it. That was knocked away by Foster, and Larson has it. Reed Larson. His pass bounced back to the Chicago blue line, and the Hawks have it there. Now here's Dennis Savard tipping it back into the Detroit zone. Barrett intercepts, cleared it back center ice. Wilson takes it there. Savard over the line. Here's Dennis Savard. Dennis Savard sets up Larmer. Smith had a pretty good grip on the Chicago player. O'Callahan clears it back to the Detroit blue line. John Barrett will take it. Now Barrett brings it up the ice again ahead to Foster. Right Foster handed it off to Mano. He took a shot deflected high off the glass. Wilson will start right back for Chicago. Play broken away by Foster. Now Foster held it in, knocked away from him, and here's Yaremchuk. Then Yaremchuk back over the line, drops it off for Lysiak to Yaremchuk. Took the shot, stepped and deflects that one way up into the crowd.
And Chicago have not let up. They've come out here and they're still skating the way they ended the second period. The Wings not capable of getting things going their way.
Well, the Hawks have lost only 2 games all season long where they were leading going into the third period, have won 28 of them. They're going to be a tough club to get to right now. 3-0 Chicago leads it. We've played 2 minutes, 49 seconds of this, the third period.
Sittler and Danny Gare. Now it's Savard, Secord, and Larmer, the big line of the Hawks up front. Secord slid it off to the side of the Detroit goal. Larson covers up there, but his pass didn't come out. Secord held it in. Play intercepted by Gallant, who clears it center ice, and the Hawks will take it. O'Callahan just drives it right back into the Detroit zone. Savard, the first man in after it. Into the corner to Secord. Little short pass that Savard couldn't handle. Danny Gare dumps it up the right wing for Kissio. Kelly Kissio has Gallant on the move. Here's Gallant digging in after it. The pass went right over his stick, and now Savard chases it back into the Detroit end. Steffen gets there first, flips it along the boards for Ladouceur. Andy Ladouceur of Detroit hands it off to Reed Larson. Larson coming out. Larson has it tipped away, picks it up again, and then shoots it off the boards in behind the Chicago goal. Bob Murray. Puck held in by Kissio. Olczyk got a stick on it, taken away by Gallant. Kissio in behind the Detroit goal. His centering pass knocked down, and the Hawks' Olczyk sent it to the line, but not out. The Wings applying a little pressure in the Chicago end, but here come the Hawks. Fraser dumps it back into the Detroit zone. Danny Gare chases it down in the corner. Gare pulls away from one check, feeds it ahead to Kissio. Kissio and Gallant, the two of them over the line. Gerard Gallant along the boards. Gallant hands it off to Duguay. He turns with it back to Smith with a shot. And Greg Smith's shot was in behind the goal. And then hit the side of the net, and the Hawks will drive it back into the Detroit end. There'll be an icing call as Ogrodnik will go back and touch it. So we have a pause in the action. It is 3-0 Chicago. We'll be back in a moment.
Cooper has always given you the best protection in hockey. Now we've got you covered right down to the ankles. Introducing new Cooper Ruse skates with our exclusive Cooper Comfort Wedge. It supports and locks your heel and ankle into place for a long-lasting, comfortable fit. Because better fit means better skating power and control with every stride. Ask for Cooper Ruse with the Cooper Comfort Wedge. The world plays hockey with Cooper.
Globetrotters will be at the Joe Louis Arena Saturday and Sunday. Tickets still available for that one. Both afternoon games. And you can check the Joe Louis Arena box office. Now here's Chicago coming out of their own zone at center ice. Yaremchuk over the line, and Sutter just lifted his skate as he went in over the line and put himself offside.
It's funny how some clubs just seem to hit the playoffs right at their peak, and it appears as though Chicago may have done that.
Remember, the tickets are remaining for both the Saturday and the Sunday games in the Joe Louis Arena. Both games will begin at 8 o'clock, and tickets are on sale now, are available at the Joe Louis Arena box office for either of those two games. Yzerman, Duguay, and Ogrodnik. Now the forward line of the Wings. Here's Greg Smith. Laid it out center ice. Kurt Fraser breaks that up. Fraser heads right back for Chicago. Drives it back into the Detroit zone. Steffen stopped it in behind his own goal. Cleared it ahead for John Ogrodnik. Now Ogrodnik feeds it off to Greg Smith. Smith carries over the Chicago line. That's as far as he got. Now it's fired right back in by Ogrodnik. Duguay goes after a rolling puck. Then Wilson tied him up. Duguay tried to center it, but Fraser intercepts. Kurt Fraser checked by Yzerman. Fraser picked it up a second time, hands it off to Olczyk. And Olczyk up the right side now to Fraser. Fraser into the Detroit zone. Hands it off to Olczyk, put it right out in front, and then almost too easily, Troy Murray moved in with a loose puck. 4-0.
What a play the 18-year-old Ed Olczyk made just before the goal was scored. He put the puck through his legs, a back pass that Brad Park knocked away, but then Troy Murray was over at the other side and it went right to him, and he put it in the net. Greg Steffen had no chance on that goal.
Now the Wings will carry the play to center ice. Dwight Foster really decked by O'Callahan as the play goes into the Detroit end. Knocked away. Bob Mano starts back out. Here's Mano handing it back to Foster at the Detroit blue line. Foster cleared it ahead, and that's over two lines. The Red Wings are offside.
Kelly Kissio mentioned that it appeared as though there was an extra man on the ice.
Kurt Fraser is the one that got the goal, Sid.
What that line worked so hard that Fraser, Olchuk, and Troy Murray.
Face-off just inside the Detroit blue line. Randy Ladouceur lifted ahead. Yaremchuk almost got loose. Over the line, Dwight Foster. The play again. The Wings carry an offside.
Well, technically there should not be an assist on this goal, but I would think that there will be two because Olchuk carried the play and made the play through his legs to try and set up
Park in possession.
Yes,
He tried to clear it, and he cleared it right onto the stick of Fraser.
Blackhawk goal is second to series, scored by number 8, Kurt Fraser. Assisted by number 16, Olchuk, at 5:20.
Olchuk draws the only assist on the goal at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Now the play goes back into the Detroit zone. Steve Larmer into the corner after it, back of the net. Savard lost it there. Reed Larson heads out. Savard right with him. Larson tipped it ahead, didn't get it out the first time. They jam away at it. Larson now sends it center ice. Secord had trouble with it, lost it. Here's Danny Gare. Gare fires a shot wide as he cut in. And the rebound off the boards all the way back into the Detroit end, and back after it is Larson. Larson plays it ahead, intercepted by Doug Wilson. Then Larson intercepts that, feeds it ahead. Here's Larson. Over the line, fired a shot that deflected off O'Callahan up into the crowd. 4-0, Chicago Blackhawks lead the Detroit Red Wings. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Dunham's, sports outfitters since 1937. Dunham's, everything in sports at a discount.
Don't you wish everything fit as well as Lee jeans fit on you? Don't you wish everything felt as good? Don't you wish everything only could? Don't you wish everything fit?
Lee pre-wash jeans from just $16.99. Available now at all 6 Dunham Sports locations.
For the first time in the hockey game, Claude Loisel and Joe Kocher. Loisel won the draw. Here's John Barrett with a drive. Bannerman kicks that one away. Hawks lift the puck high in the air, bounce it back into the Detroit zone, and Park hurries back after it. At center ice, Rich Patterson takes it, drops it back at his own blue line. Dupont intercepted center ice by Park, back into the Chicago zone. Park handed it back to Sittler, and Sittler's pass comes all the way back out center ice. John Barrett. Barrett on the rush, back over the line, lost it there. Kocher hands it back now to Brad Park. It's center ice. 13 minutes to play here in the third period. There'll be an icing call as the Wings slide it in behind the Chicago net. And the play will come all the way back into the Detroit zone.
An update out of town. LA have scored in the third period, I believe it is, to tie Edmonton at 1. And Minnesota have taken a 3-2 lead over St. Louis. That game being played in St. Louis. The Edmonton game is in the second period.
Face-off will be to the left side of the Detroit goal. 4-0 Chicago. Crowd making a lot of noise. We've said it a good many times, but it's so reminiscent of the old Olympia Stadium here.
Yes, very much so.
The noise just reverberates. And the Hawks have had things to cheer about. Now here's Loisel tipping it ahead for Sittler up the right side to Kocher. Joe Kocher's going to break in. Kocher drives a shot and scores. Joe Kocher gets on the ice for the first time, and the Red Wings are on the board.
And his first National League playoff goal. He's going to be a happy youngster. And he beat Bannerman cleanly right just inside the post. Bannerman came way out of the net to challenge him, but Kocher beat him on the far side from just about the spot. And Bannerman's assist, if they were Bannerman's shutout, if they were thinking of that, has gone by the boards.
Now the Wings come out again with Duguay, Ogrodnik, and Yzerman. Larry Trader's on for the first time. Puck's then all the way back into the Detroit zone. Steffen deflects it into the corner. Back of his own goal. Trader played it up the left wing for John Ogrodnik. Knocked away from him by Olczyk. But the Wings will bring it out. Trader out at center ice. Trader up the left side. Picked the puck up himself. And Troy Murray knocked it away. Murray lost it to Ogrodnik. Then he knocked Ogrodnik's falling. And the Hawks, then Wilson will bounce it back into the Detroit end. The puck rolls to the side of the Detroit net. Steffen clears it over on the right side now for Reed Larson. Ahead to Duguay. Now John Ogrodnik played it left side for Yzerman. Yzerman moved in. He's double teamed. Knocked away from him. Ogrodnik was spun around, knocked down, and O'Callahan will take it. Ogrodnik limping around a little bit. Penalty coming up to Yzerman. Strange sort of play. Here's Doug Wilson heading out. Wilson coming out center ice on the delayed call over the line into the Detroit zone. Kurt Fraser has it with a drive. Deflected wide. Larson will take it, and the penalty now is called.
Well, Steve Yzerman really got the hook on it.
We'll be back with the Chicago power play in a moment.
What does it mean when a Shell dealer displays this sign? It means he makes these important promises: to give you a written estimate up front, to have certified mechanics and the right equipment for the job, and he backs his work in writing. In a word, your Shell Auto Care dealer promises to give you quality car repair service right here in your neighborhood. Look for this sign: Shell Auto Care.
Steve Yzerman does not take many penalties, but he got the big National League hook out on the Chicago player coming around behind the Chicago net.
Wasn't really looking for a penalty at that stage of the game. We were looking for a little action around the Chicago net. Instead, the Hawks have possession deep in the Detroit end, and they have the extra man. Foster and Mano again as penalty killers. Puck came back to the blue line. Here's Doug Wilson with it. Wilson dumps it along the board. Savard off the side. Secord tried to center it, and John Barrett broke that up. Doug Wilson again from the blue line. Hands it off to Bob Murray. In the corner, it goes to Larmer. Now Steve Larmer sends it back, and Wilson tried to shot it. Rather, Murray did. Deflected just over the top of the Detroit goal. Barrett takes it in behind his own goal and clears it the length of the ice. Minute and a half left in the penalty to Yzerman. 4-1, Chicago leads. Dennis Savard carries out center ice again, over the line, into the Detroit end. He's checked. Bob Mano picks up the puck at center ice, has Foster moving. Pass just too far out in front of Foster. He gains control again, then shot it back to Barrett at the Detroit line. Barrett lifts it ahead now for Greg Smith, and Smith will drive it the length of the ice. Goes in behind the Chicago goal. Bannerman gives it there to his defenseman, Doug Wilson. A minute left in the penalty to Detroit's Yzerman. Coming out against Savard. Savard turns it over the line into the Detroit zone. Steffen stopped it in behind the goal. Greg Smith's pass hit a piece of glass. It didn't come out. The Wings are trying to work it out. Here's Ogrodnik taking it away, and Ogrodnik rolled it off Secord, stopped at the line.
Talk about a recovery of a high puck off the glass, and then a terrific shot from the blue line. I think that puck hit the Detroit player out in front of the net. I'm not positive. But it went in high over Greg Steffen's catching glove.
Well, John Ogrodnik had really driven that puck, trying to clear it out. It was stopped at the blue line, and Brown just fired it right back in. A power play goal at 9:53 of this third period, and a 5-1 lead. Now Claude Loisel and Kocher back out with Sittler. Puck driven back to the Detroit blue line. Bouncing around there. Loisel sends it up left wing to Sittler. Sittler pulled up Puck stays in. Loisel held it. Got it to the line again for Lattiser. Randy Lattiser took a shot, but Bannerman deflects to the corner. Loisel dug it out. Sent it back to the net for Kocher. Put it right out in front. And Sittler all tied up there by Brown. Now the Hawks slide it back into the Detroit zone. Yaremchuk was going in after it, but Lattiser had him all tied up, and Larson heads back for Detroit. Kocher couldn't play it. He'd have been offside, so the Hawks just shoot it back out center ice. Larson cleared it ahead, lost it. Over the line now. Here's Troy Murray right out in front, and again Lattiser came back to make the check on Yaremchuk. Sittler leads a 3-on-2 for Detroit. Over the line, and Larson moved in offside, and Sittler didn't know what to do at the blue line. So a pause in the action. 5-1 Chicago. We'll be back in a moment.
Mommy, will the thunder make us late?
Don't worry, we'll be on time.
With the flick of a switch, American Eagle lets you shift on the fly from two-wheel drive to the sure-footed traction of four-wheel drive. Because sometimes security is the most important thing your car can give you.
They wouldn't have missed this for the world.
When nature makes it rain or snow, fight back. Make it Eagle.
Bruce Martin along with Sid Abel, our producer-director Toby Cunningham, as we take 5 seconds now for station identification.
You're watching TV 20, WXON Detroit.
Third period action here at Chicago. The Red Wings trail by 4. That was the story of last night's game. And here come the Hawks breaking out again with Savard. Dennis Savard up the left side for Secord, and Greg Smith came back to cut him off. Danny Gere flipped it back out center ice. It'll be taken to the Chicago line now by O'Callahan to Doug Wilson. Cleared back into the Detroit zone. Here's Larmer with a fly. And Greg Steffen came out and made just a great save.
Unbelievable. Just Ron Larmer. Larmer is their best goal scorer, but he has been robbed by Greg Steffen time and time again in the 2 games.
That time he broke by, went right in, and Steffen made the glove save.
They are on the puck, though, no matter where it goes. Every time you look up, there's a white sweater right where the action is, and they're just out jumping Detroit for loose pucks.
Philadelphia Flyers now have taken a 2-goal lead over the New York Rangers in Philadelphia. It's 3-1. Here's a quick opportunity for Dupont. He drove a shot just wide. Larry Trader banged it off the boards. Kissio, a long pass bouncing out center ice. The Hawks take it there. 5-1 Chicago leads. Danny Gere, Gallant, and Kissio, the forward line for Detroit. Now it's cleared to center ice by Savard. Knocked away there. Gallant has it for Detroit. Right side to Kissio. He and Gere. Kissio was checked by Dupont. It slides again to the center ice area. Reed Larson shot it back in with Gere coming back. It's way offside on the delayed call. The Hawks are just going to eat up as much time as they can. They do that. And the whistle stops it now. And again, it's 5-1 Chicago as we pause for this message.
Pizza makers everywhere have developed highly sophisticated factories to make their pizza. So has Little Caesars. For instance, this is the highly sophisticated factory that makes our cheese. This is the automated plant that makes our special sauce. And these are the sophisticated machines that put it all together. At Little Caesars, we still make pizza the old-fashioned way. We make it. And we always give you the second pizza free. Because when you make a pizza this good, one just isn't enough.
Ilitch, the owner of the Detroit Red Wings, who takes this game very, very seriously, I'm here to tell you. Suffering through this one, I guess. Jack O'Callahan goes in behind his own goal.
They were certainly expecting better results.
Now Steve Ludzik up the ice over the line. He goes right through. And he was knocked to the ice, and the Wings will bring it back out. Ludzik cut right in, but never got the shot away. Bannerman came out of the net. Foster held the puck in. Oh, and the Red Wing player is screamed down there by Ludzik. That was Reed Larson, and he's going after Ludzik. Ludzik hit him from behind. The referee stood there and watched it. Now Larson digging after Steve Ludzik down along the boards. He was really pelted. He got up, looked around, and took a whack at the Chicago forward. two of them with a linesman in between them now. Larson takes another slap at Lutzig. Lutzig trying to pull away from Hodges. There again, Sid, and Taylor stood back, let it go, let the players dribble.
That's what happens. Well, that'll just build up things for the game in Detroit on Saturday night.
Larson really belted from behind.
Now that's a penalty.
It had to be a charging call, but it wasn't. They've sent Larson into the dressing room. I don't know what he's calling here. He did not call a penalty on Lutzig originally. That's when Larson started the fight. So while they sort them out, we'll tell you there's 7:11 to go in the third period. 5-1 Chicago. We'll be back in a moment.
Got me a case of the 501 blues, here from my waist right down to my shoes. You ain't got it, not like me. It's my shrink to fit, permanent identity. 501 blues, legendary 501 blues. Levi's, Bud Light.
Brought to you by J.C. Penney, your headquarters for Levi's 501 jeans.
2 minutes for an elbow. Leading the New York Rangers 3-1. It's hard to believe.
Detroit penalty, Larson. 2 minutes for elbowing, 2 minutes for roughing, and a 10-minute misconduct penalty. Blackhawk penalty, Lutzig. 2 minutes for roughing at 12:49.
A roughing call to Lutzig. Larson gets elbowing, roughing, and a 10-minute misconduct.
Wow. That is, boy, Reed Larson's lucky he wasn't injured right there, because when you get hit on a charge like that from behind, you talk about the blind side. Reed was facing the boards, the play, Lutzig coming from behind and really nailed him.
He made a real run at him, too. Bobby Pulford is arguing something.
Pulford's mad because Lutzig got a penalty, I imagine.
He was not going to call. He didn't call a penalty on Lutzig. He called him for roughing after the two of them started to mix it up. Face-off will take place out over the Chicago blue line. Each team will be short one man for 2 minutes, and then Larson will have the other 2 minutes. He's gone to the dressing room. He picked up the additional 10 in the misconduct. Doug Wilson goes in behind his own goal for Chicago now. Wilson plays it up the right side, held in at the blue line by Randy Lattiser. Here's Ogrodnik winding up with a drive, and he fired that wide, and the wings have been off target much of the time. Puck slides back into the Detroit zone. Steffen came out of the net, flipped it into the corner for Lattiser. Randy Lattiser plays it ahead to John Ogrodnik now. Ogrodnik slides it off to Greg Smith. Here is Smith moving out center ice. Over the line into the Chicago end. Smith played it off the boards. John Ogrodnik lost it along the circle, and Olchuk takes it there. Olchuk starts out. Olchuk comes out center ice. Olchuk over the line, drops it off there, came right out in front. Thrown it in, Doug Wilson with a drive, and that was blocked by Greg Steffen. Greg Steffen again came up with a great save, or the Hawks would be out in front by more than 4. Danny Gare. Gare's pass bounces off Gardner back into the Chicago end. The Hawks will bring it back out. Here's Murray. He lost it to Gare. Danny Gare then lost it to Gardner. Here's Gardner moving in. Gardner fired it right to the net, and that's knocked away by Steffen. Now the referee went for a spell deep in the Detroit zone as Gare tries to cut in. He's grabbed by Patterson and hauled down. Play goes in behind the Chicago net, and Patterson will head back for it. Gare is screaming at the referee. Back down the ice, over the line is Patterson into the Detroit zone. Steffen came out of the net, cleared it into the corner. It came back to the blue line for Brown. Brown drives a shot, a penalty coming up to Detroit. As Barrett that time got in front of the Hawk player, and he'll go off.
This is unreal.
Danny Gare, I can't believe it. He is really arguing with referee Van Hulleman, who has missed a lot here tonight. And he calls instead the penalty to John Barrett.
Well, when things are not going, they're not gonna go. He is just calling the one penalty, and that's on Barrett. But Danny Gare had no chance at all to take the shot on the net. He was hauled down from behind and then actually held while the play came down the other way. But Greg Steffen making a great save on Olchuk, batting it out of the open part of the net with that big goal stick. But they have a find in this young Ed Olchuk, I'll say that. He is a great-looking hockey player, 18 years old, the youngest player in the National Hockey League.
So Barrett goes off, 2 minutes for cross-checking. Now that means in 9 seconds, the Red Wings are going to be 2 men short.
Yes. Well, when you're down 5-1...
Well, they are 2 men short, but Chicago will be at full strength.
When you're down 5-1, Bruce, with only 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go, they're probably not that concerned.
Look over on the far side, Nick Polano having a heck of a conversation with that element. Danny Gare was cutting right in on a goal. And he was just absolutely tackled by Rich Patterson.
I don't blame Nick Polano for being mad, but what can you do? They don't call it, and then he calls it double on Detroit.
So the Red Wings win the draw. Dwight Foster did, but Wilson stops it at the blue line, sets up Bob Murray. Here is Murray holding it just inside the blue line. Back on his Ludwig now. The Hawks have a 2-man advantage. Dennis Savard. Savard back outside. Savard back at the line. Put it right out in front. Secord deflected it wide of the goal. It comes back to Wilson. Here's Doug Wilson with a drive.
This goal will go to Secord. That puck was deflected, and I think it hit Greg Steffen's mask after it was deflected. We'll have to wait for the announcement on it. The drive from just inside the blue line by Wilson. It appeared to hit Greg Steffen's mask.
It hit somebody out there.
Right.
Driven back into the Chicago zone. The Hawks have a 1-man advantage now. Chicago will move it out. It's stopped at the Detroit blue line by Greg Smith. Comes back out center ice. Here's Savard again winding up. Back into the Detroit zone. Savard flying into the corner. Centering pass, but is taken by Lattiser. Randy Lattiser slides it back center ice. It slides back into the Chicago end. 1:05 left in Barrett's penalty. 6-1 the Hawks lead it. Laid back into the Detroit zone. Secord held it in. Plays it over along the boards. Bob Murray shot it back to the left point. It'll be taken there by Doug Wilson. Wilson handed it off to Savard. Tipped to the side of the Detroit goal. Larmer sends it back on the line to Murray. Murray's pass skipped by Savard, and Greg Smith has it. Smith bangs it off the boards. It bounces center ice. Murray just shot it right to the Detroit end, and Randy Lattiser comes back with it. Lattiser goes over the line, drops it for Duguay. He is checked, and Savard will start back. A half a minute left in the Detroit penalty. Doug Wilson now to Secord. Secord checked from behind by Duguay. Put it right out in front. And Larmer deflected it over the top of the Detroit goal. Duguay. Pass knocked down, but following up is Trader. Larry Trader carries into the Chicago end. The goal was Wilson's from Savard and Secord. Wilson clears it along the boards now for Yaremchuk. The penalty to Barrett is over, and the Hawks will bring it back down the ice. Over the line, Yaremchuk lost control, picks it up a second time. He's grabbed by Larry Trader as they go into the corner. Lysiak flipped it along the board. Sutter held it in. It goes right to the goal line. Stayed right on the goal line, and it was Mark Smith who took it there, and then Smith was hauled down. A penalty coming up on the delayed call. The Wings have possession. John Ogrodnik laid it back to Larry Trader. The way things are going, the Wings have an empty goal. They better be careful. They're back in their own end. Trader right out in front of his net. Hands it ahead to Smith. Now Brad Smith carried over the line. Knocked away from him there by Ben Wilson. They go into the corner, and the play is whistled down.
Blackhawks goal scored by number 24. Well, there's not much you can do. This Chicago club, they've just put together a terrific hockey game here tonight. They've been on top of the puck all frustrated, down 6-1 now.
Well, the power play goal, while the Wings were 2 men short, scored by Doug Wilson from Savard and Secord, 15:05.
2 power play goals again this evening, and they scored a couple last night.
The hooking call to Lysiak comes at 17 minutes, 25 seconds. Red Wings have Ogrodnik, Gare, and Kissio up front. Yzerman and Park back at the blue line. Ogrodnik worked it back to Brad Park. He fanned on it. Here's Gardner. Gardner turned around by Park, is over the line. Park took a bouncing shot. Gardner did. That's knocked away. Now Gardner trying to dig it out again, and Brad Park finally comes up with it. Brad Park brings it back out center ice. A big opportunity for Gardner there. Now Park dumped the puck into the corner. Bob Murray goes in after it and bangs it back to the Detroit blue line. Yzerman plays it ahead for Gare. Danny Gare ahead to Kissio. A little drop pass for Ogrodnik. John Ogrodnik couldn't hold it. Gardner got it out center ice, and the Wings cleared it back in offside.
Every time the Wings get possession of the puck, they turn around. There's a white sweater right on top of them. They can't make a play. Chicago are just here, there, and everywhere. They have taken complete control of the hockey game.
The only Red Wing goal scored by Joe Kocher from Sittler and Loisel at 7:20. That came the first time that Loisel and Kocher were on the ice. But the Red Wings have not been able to dent Bannerman beyond that. Here is Larry Trader of the Wings carrying back into the Chicago zone. Little drop pass for Kissio. Now to Ogrodnik. Back to Kissio at the line. Kelly Kissio holds it there. Knocked away from him by Ludzik. Ludzik turned around, given a bump by Kissio. Ogrodnik tipped it away. It comes back into the Chicago end, and the Hawks just lift it back to the Detroit blue line. Trader, center ice pass to Yzerman, back into the Chicago end. Fed it in behind the Hawks goal, and O'Callaghan drives it to the line. Yzerman stops it there. Steve Yzerman to Ogrodnik in the corner. Right out in front, and Kissio tried to shot. Bannerman made an excellent save. Great save on a pretty play, and Kelly Kissio was stopped cold by Bannerman. Now John Ogrodnik's pass into the Chicago zone. Loisel went digging in after. Bannerman came out of the net, but the puck ended up in behind the goal. Loisel dug it out there. Hands it back now to John Ogrodnik. Here's Trader at the blue line, a minute to go in the hockey game. And the puck slides beyond Trader all the way back into the Detroit end. Yzerman back after it. 10 seconds left in the penalty to Lysiak of Chicago. And the Wings are going to shoot it all the way down the ice. It'll be an icing call. And the play back into the Detroit end. 38 seconds to be played in this third period. 6-1, Chicago.
Well, the Wings are going to go back home and see if they can regroup. Play there Saturday and see if they can keep their record intact in Detroit. Chicago have not defeated them in Detroit this season. And Detroit have not won a game here in Chicago now in 6 games this season.
Saturday night, 8 o'clock. Radio and television. Final score, Minnesota defeating St. Louis.
4-3.
Maybe it's just in the third period. It's not a final. 4-3, Minnesota leading. Don't you think that Minnesota North Star Club knew what they were doing?
Yes.
It is a final
score. They wanted to meet St. Louis in the first round, and they just played that way the last 2 weeks to make sure that they finished 4th and would get the opportunity to play them.
Well, this Chicago club that we've watched these first 2 games can beat anybody in this National Hockey League.
Yes, there's no doubt. The way they're going right now, if they can keep this momentum going, they are going to be a difficult club to knock out.
We'll see what they do when they leave their home ice. That'll be Saturday night. Tickets are still available for that game. Joe Louis Arena box office. Darryl Sittler checked right at the Chicago line. Now Ben Wilson goes in behind his own goal. Played it up the right side. Knocked away by Loisel, who's digging at the puck. But Olczyk intercepts and starts back. Here's Troy Murray back into the Detroit zone. Dropped it back out over the line. The Hawks bring it in offside. 14 seconds to go. 6-1, Chicago leads.
Well, there's no doubt that Chicago was the better hockey club tonight by a wide margin. When they got things rolling, got a break or two and picked up a couple goals in the first period, and then they were away, and it's just been a one-man or a one-team show since that time. Detroit frustrated, not being able to get free at any time.
Here now over the line, Claude Loisel with a drive, and Bannerman stops that, holds on to it. It's off to the side of the goal, and the siren goes to end the second game. The Red Wings losing the 2 games here in Chicago to the Blackhawks, 9-5, and tonight by a score of 6-1. Barry Bannerman playing well in the Chicago goal, and tonight you could not blame Greg Stephan. He did what he could.
Oh, you can't blame goaltending in any way tonight.
Final period, Detroit Wings 9 for a total of 31. Blackhawks 10 for a total of...
Well, this is the first period. The Blackhawks have outshot the Red Wings. This third period, 10 for Chicago and 9 for Detroit. We'll be back to recap it all for you right after we pause for this message.
Just for the rock of it, just for the roll of it. Diet Coke. Just for the look of it, just for the kick of it, the real cola taste of it. Diet Coke. Just for the joy of it. Just for the just for the love of it. Just for the one of it. From Coca-Cola. Just for the taste of it. Diet Coke.
Got me a case of the 501 blues. Here from my waist right down to my shoes. You ain't got it, not like me. It's my shrink to fit permanent identity. 501 blues, legendary 501 blues. Levi's, Bud Light.
Brought to you by JCPenney, your headquarters for Levi's 501 jeans.
A simple shopping trip without the Ameritech Michigan Bell Yellow Pages could be an unforgettable experience. You could end up going in circles or going no place fast. And getting there, too late. Going down one blind alley after another. Why go through that when you can go through Michigan's most complete shopping guide before you leave? The Ameritech Michigan Bell Yellow Pages. Next to the phone. There's nothing better.
They jammed the Chicago Stadium to overflowing here for the 2 games last night and tonight. And the Chicago Blackhawks showed great power. The Red Wings never really put it together either of the 2 evenings, so they gave up a total of 15 goals in the 2 games, scored 6 themselves. The final shots and goal, 25 for Chicago, and the Red Wings had 31, and they outshot the Hawks last night 51-30. So the Chicago fans seem to feel that this indeed could be their year. The goal scorers, Sutter, Yaremchuk, and Secord in the first period. Fraser made it 4-0 in the third. Kocher scored the only Detroit goal, and then Brown a power play, and Doug Wilson scored another power play goal, and the Hawks win it 6-1. The 2 teams back into the Joe Louis Arena Saturday night. Our broadcast and telecast time will be 8 o'clock. Until then, this is Bruce Martin speaking for Sid Abel, our producer-director Toby Cunningham, hoping you've enjoyed the broadcast and telecast of this one, that you'll be joining us again Saturday at 8 o'clock. Again, tonight's final score from Chicago Stadium, the Blackhawks 6, the Red Wings 1.
Red Wing Hockey. Tonight's game has been brought to you by Bud Light, the less filling light beer with the first name in taste. And by your 48 Greater Detroit area Midas shops. Trust the Midas touch. And by Thornapple Valley's great tasting hot dogs, hams, bacon, and sausage. And by Little Caesars with over 150 locations in the Detroit metro area to serve you. And by Michigan National Banks, where you get more for your money. And by JCPenney, your headquarters for Levi corduroy jeans. And by Jeep Corporation, there's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep. beat. This has been a production of the Detroit Red Wings.
TV 20. WXON Detroit.